Hey everyone. Tonight, we're plunging into the darkest, most terrifying mysteries that our oceans conceal from human eyes. From monstrous creatures lurking in the abyss, to ghost ships that drift through foggy waters with no crew in sight. From underwater cities swallowed by time to sounds so chilling, they've left even the most skeptical scientists questioning what they know about our world. The ocean covers more than 70% of our planet, yet we've explored less than 5% of what lies beneath those deceptively calm waters. That means there's an entire alien world down there, waiting in eternal darkness, filled with enigmas that would make your most terrifying nightmares seem like comforting fantasies. So before we begin our descent into these mysterious depths together, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy exploring the unknown with me. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. It's always fascinating to see who's brave enough to join me on these midnight journeys into the watery abyss. Now dim your lights, maybe wrap yourself in something warm, and let's sink slowly into tonight's exploration of the ocean's most disturbing secrets. When you think about the ocean, perhaps you imagine pristine beaches, sunlight dancing on gentle waves, or colorful fish darting through coral reefs. But tonight, we're venturing somewhere else entirely. We're going to places where sunlight has never penetrated, where pressure would pulverize your body in less than a heartbeat, and where creatures exist that evolution seems to have crafted during a particularly nightmarish fever dream. The ocean isn't just water, it's a vast, three-dimensional realm that exists right here on Earth, but might as well be on another planet entirely. It's a world where fish generate their own ghostly light, where colossal squids engage in epic battles with sperm whales in the crushing depths, and where the very geography seems to shift and transform like some sleeping leviathan. Imagine this. You're drifting on the surface of the ocean on a moonless night. The water is like black glass, reflecting what few stars manage to pierce the darkness above. But beneath you, stretching down for miles and miles, is an abyss so profound that if you dropped Mount Everest into certain parts of it, the peak wouldn't even break the surface. And in that unimaginable darkness, things are moving, things are hunting, things are waiting. The ocean doesn't concern itself with your fears or your limitations. It operates according to laws, so foreign to our land-dwelling minds that even our most sophisticated science struggles to comprehend them. Down in the deepest trenches, the pressure exceeds 1,000 times what you're experiencing as you listen to my voice right now. It would be like having 50 jumbo jets pressing down on every square inch of your body simultaneously. And yet, remarkably, life not only exists there, it thrives. Not just survives, thrives. Organisms that have never glimpsed sunlight, never experienced warmth, entities that exist in an eternal midnight of bone-chilling cold. They've adapted to conditions so extreme, they might as well be extraterrestrial beings. Some generate their own eerie bioluminescence, creating ghostly constellations in the absolute darkness. Others have evolved to be completely transparent, like living phantoms drifting through the lightless void. But here's what truly haunts marine biologists and oceanographers. We keep discovering new life forms down there, new species, new ecosystems, new mysteries that challenge everything we thought we understood about life on Earth. Every deep-sea expedition returns with footage of creatures that seem to have crawled directly from humanity's collective nightmares. And for every discovery, 10 more questions emerge from the darkness. It jealously protects its mysteries, concealed beneath miles of impenetrable water and crushing pressure. But tonight, we're going to descend into that alien world and explore some of the most spine-chilling, sleep-disrupting, utterly fascinating enigmas that lurk in the depths. Because if you think you know what terror truly is, wait until you hear about what's been living in the deepest parts of our planet's oceans, right beneath our feet, all this time. And the truly unsettling part. We're only beginning to glimpse what's hiding down there in the dark. Let's begin our journey in a place that sounds like it was ripped, straight from the pages of a cosmic horror novel, the Mariana Trench. Located in the western Pacific Ocean, this underwater canyon is the deepest known part of Earth's oceans, plunging down over 36,000 feet below sea level. To put that in perspective, if you somehow drained all the water from the Mariana Trench and placed Mount Everest inside it, the mountain's peak would still be submerged under more than a mile of water. The Mariana Trench isn't merely deep, it's fundamentally alien to human experience. The pressure there is so extreme that it would instantly compress any human body into something resembling organic paste. The temperature hovers just above freezing. There's no sunlight, no warmth, no comfort of any kind. It's as close as you can get to visiting another world without leaving Earth. And yet, even in this hellish environment, life has found a way to thrive. Bizarre creatures with translucent skin, bioluminescent organs, and mouths filled with needle-like teeth patrol these depths. Fish that look like they were designed by a sleep-deprived horror artist drift through the blackness. There are ghostly snailfish with bodies so adapted to the pressure that they literally melt when brought to the surface. In 2016, scientists lowered microphones into the Challenger Deep, the very bottom of the Mariana Trench. Instead of silence, they captured a constant cacophony of sounds: the rumble of earthquakes, the moaning of whales, the screech of metal as tectonic plates ground against each other, and numerous sounds they couldn't identify at all. Something down there in the darkest part of our world was making noises that our scientists couldn't explain. One of the most disturbing discoveries in the Mariana Trench came in 2019 when a research team found a plastic bag at the very bottom, 36,000 feet down. Think about that for a moment. Human pollution has reached the most remote, inaccessible place on our planet. If our trash can make it there, what else might be lurking in those unexplored depths? What other human influences might be affecting creatures that evolved in isolation for millions of years? The Mariana Trench is also home to hydrothermal vents, underwater geysers that spew superheated water filled with toxic chemicals. Around these vents, entire ecosystems thrive in conditions that would instantly kill most life on Earth. Bacteria that feed on hydrogen sulfide form the base of food chains that shouldn't logically exist. These bacteria have evolved metabolic pathways completely different from almost all other life on our planet. In essence, we've discovered alien life, not in space, but in our own oceans. In 2012, filmmaker James Cameron became one of the few humans to ever visit the bottom of the Mariana Trench in his specialized submersible, the Deep Sea Challenger. He described the experience as like visiting another planet. The pressure at that depth was equivalent to having 3 SUVs resting on his thumbnail. What's perhaps most unnerving is that many of these life forms may remain undiscovered and unnamed, thriving in an environment almost completely inaccessible to humans. Now let's drift eastward to another oceanic mystery that has puzzled scientists for decades: the Devil's Sea, also known as the Dragon's Triangle. Located off the coast of Japan, this area has earned a reputation similar to the Bermuda Triangle for unexplained disappearances of ships and aircraft. Japanese fishing vessels have vanished without distress calls, their crews never to be seen again. Military aircraft have lost contact while flying over these waters, sometimes disappearing from radar without explanation. In 1952, the Japanese government sent a research vessel, the Kyomaru no Ro 5, to investigate the Devil's Sea after numerous disappearances. In a twisted irony that seems almost too perfect for a horror story, the research vessel itself disappeared, along with its crew of 31 scientists and sailors. No wreckage was ever found, no distress call was ever received, and no bodies were ever recovered. It was as if the sea itself had swallowed them whole, leaving no trace behind. Some scientists attribute the Devil's Sea phenomena to underwater volcanic activity in the region. Other theories point to extreme magnetic anomalies that might disrupt navigational equipment and communications. Moving across the Pacific, we encounter another maritime mystery that has fascinated and terrified people for centuries: the Bermuda Triangle. This roughly triangular area between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico has claimed countless ships and aircraft over the years, often in circumstances that defy conventional explanation. Perhaps the most famous Bermuda Triangle incident occurred in December 1945, when 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, collectively known as Flight 19, vanished during a routine training mission. All 14 airmen aboard the 5 aircraft disappeared without a trace. Even more disturbing, the PBM Mariner flying boat sent to search for Flight 19 also vanished, along with its 13-man crew. In a single day, the Bermuda Triangle had claimed 27 men and 6 aircraft. No bodies were ever recovered. No wreckage was ever found, and the last radio transmissions from Flight 19 included disoriented pilots claiming that everything looks wrong and we don't know which way is west. The flight leader was heard saying, "We are entering white water, we're completely lost." Then silence. In 1918, the U.S. Cyclops, a massive naval cargo ship with 309 crew members aboard, disappeared without a trace in the Bermuda Triangle. No distress calls were made, and despite an extensive search, no wreckage or bodies were ever found. It remains the largest non-combat loss of life in U.S. naval history. What force could cause a 542-foot naval vessel to vanish so completely that not even a floating piece of debris remained? Some scientists have proposed that large methane gas bubbles released from underwater deposits could temporarily reduce water density, causing ships to sink almost instantly. Others point to extreme and unexpected weather phenomena like rogue waves that can reach heights of over 100 feet and appear without warning. Electronic fog, a rare meteorological phenomenon, has been reported by pilots and sailors who survived Bermuda Triangle encounters. They describe a thick, unusual mist that attaches itself to vessels, causing electronic equipment to malfunction and creating disorientation. In 1991, researchers discovered enormous underwater pyramids in the area, seemingly constructed from smooth, opaque materials, unlike typical ocean floor formations. Some of these structures reportedly have dimensions similar to those of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Let's sink deeper now into the realm of sounds that shouldn't exist. Unexplained noises captured from the depths that have left scientists baffled and uneasy. In 1997, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded an ultra-low frequency sound in the South Pacific that was so loud it was detected by sensors over 3,000 miles apart. The sound, which scientists named the bloop, was unlike anything ever recorded before. It was several times louder than the blue whale, previously thought to be the loudest animal on Earth. The frequency and pattern didn't match any known man-made or geological sound. For years, the leading theory was that the bloop must have been produced by a living creature, which would mean something truly massive was lurking in the ocean depths. Something far larger than even the blue whale. Eventually, scientists concluded that the bloop was likely caused by an icequake, the sound of massive ice shelves breaking apart in Antarctica. But some marine biologists remain unconvinced, pointing out inconsistencies in the sound pattern compared to typical icequakes. In 2012, another unexplained sound dubbed the upsweep was recorded repeatedly in the Pacific Ocean. Unlike the bloop, which was heard only once, the upsweep has been detected seasonally since the 1990s. It consists of a series of increasing frequency sweeps, unlike any known natural phenomenon. Even more unsettling, the sound appears to be getting louder each year, as if whatever is producing it is growing or intensifying its activity. Then there's the slowdown, a bizarre sound recorded in May 1997. It lasted for about 7 minutes and consisted of a rapid descent in frequency, almost like a massive object dramatically decelerating. No known natural or artificial source has been identified for this sound. Some fringe theories suggest it could be the acoustic signature of something massive entering our ocean from elsewhere, though mainstream scientists dismiss such speculation. Perhaps the most haunting of all these unexplained ocean sounds is the Julia. Recorded in 1999, this eerie sound bears an unsettling resemblance to a human moan or wail. Marine biologists have no explanation for what could have produced such a human-like cry from the abyssal depths. Some sailors who've heard the recording refuse to return to sea, claiming the sound triggers a primal fear response they can't rationalize. In 2016, scientists working in the Mariana Trench recorded what they described as a metallic, grinding sound coming from the deepest part of the ocean. This wasn't biological or geological in nature, it sounded manufactured, mechanical. Yet no human structures or equipment exist at that depth that could produce such a noise. Moving from sounds to sights, let's explore the terrifying creatures that inhabit the ocean's darkest regions. The deeper you go into the ocean, the more nightmarish the inhabitants become. Evolution has taken strange, disturbing paths in the eternal darkness of the deep sea. Many deep-sea creatures have transparent bodies, allowing you to see their internal organs working in real time like living anatomical models. The barrel-eye fish, for instance, has a completely transparent head, revealing its tubular, barrel-shaped eyes that can rotate to look directly upward through its transparent skull. These specialized eyes are constantly scanning the waters above for the silhouettes of potential prey. Imagine encountering a creature with a see-through head, its brain and eyes clearly visible, staring up at you from the darkness. Then there's the black swallower, a fish that can devour prey up to 10 times its own size. Its stomach can stretch to seemingly impossible dimensions, and it has occasionally been found dead floating on the surface, having attempted to swallow fish so large that they decomposed inside the swallower before they could be digested. The resulting gases from decomposition caused the swallower to float upward from its deep-sea home, like a grotesque balloon rising to the surface. The goblin shark is perhaps one of the most unsettling deep-sea predators, with a prehistoric appearance that seems designed to haunt your dreams. Its most distinctive feature is its elongated, flattened snout that resembles a sword blade protruding from its head. But the true horror of the goblin shark becomes apparent when it feeds. Its entire jaw can project forward out of its face, like something from an alien horror film, revealing pink gums studded with needle-like teeth. Despite its name, it's neither a vampire nor a true squid. It's the only living member of its own order. When threatened, it can turn itself inside out, transforming its entire body into what looks like a spiky black umbrella adorned with glowing blue photophores. It can also release a cloud of bioluminescent mucus instead of ink, creating a glowing cloud that confuses predators while the vampire squid escapes. In 2012, scientists exploring the Bermuda Trench north of New Zealand encountered a supergiant amphipod measuring over 13 inches long. This might not sound impressive until you realize that most amphipods are smaller than your fingernail. Finding one the size of your forearm was equivalent to discovering a rabbit the size of an elephant. Then there's the frilled shark, often described as a living fossil, because its appearance has remained virtually unchanged for 80 million years. Its mouth contains 300 trident-shaped teeth arranged in 25 rows, designed not just to puncture, but to trap prey, so that it cannot escape even if it struggles. When scientists first encountered this creature, they initially believed they had discovered an entirely new species of marine life, so alien was its appearance compared to known shark species. In 2001, researchers in the Bahamas recorded the first ever footage of a live giant squid in its natural habitat. These legendary creatures can grow to lengths of up to 43 feet and have the largest eyes of any known animal, up to 10 inches in diameter. For centuries, they were thought to be merely the fantasies of delirious sailors, despite giant squid bodies occasionally washing ashore. Now we know these behemoths are real, patrolling the middle depths of our oceans, their massive tentacles grabbing prey and pulling it toward beaks powerful enough to slice through steel cables. Even more elusive is the colossal squid, which has a shorter but more massive body than its giant cousin. Armed with swiveling hooks on its tentacles, instead of simple suction cups, the colossal squid is believed to be the most formidable invertebrate predator on Earth. Only a handful of specimens have ever been seen by humans, mostly dead or dying individuals, brought up in fishing nets. What's particularly unsettling is that these creatures likely grow much larger than any specimens we've documented. We may have yet to encounter a fully mature adult. The ocean's middle depths are home to some of the most efficient predators on the planet. Take the dragonfish, a creature straight out of medieval nightmares. Its body is covered in light-absorbing pigments that make it virtually invisible in the darkness. The only parts you might see are its enormous fangs, which are so transparent they're nearly invisible even under direct light. Some species of dragonfish have a bioluminescent lure dangling from their chin, like a fishing rod tipped with living bait. Then there's the nightmarish viperfish, with fangs so large they won't fit inside its mouth. It then uses a hinged skull to rotate its head upward, allowing it to swallow the impaled victim whole. The viperfish's stomach can expand to accommodate prey larger than itself, and it can go without food for weeks or even months between successful hunts. Perhaps most disturbing of all deep-sea predators is the bobbit worm, an aquatic ambush predator that can grow up to 10 feet long. It buries its body in the ocean floor, leaving only its 5 antennae exposed. When its sensitive antennae detect passing prey, the worm erupts from its hiding place with such speed that it sometimes slices fish in half before they can react. Armed with a complex jaw apparatus that snaps shut with the force of a steel trap, the bobbit worm drags its victims below the sand where they are consumed alive. The deep sea is also home to bioluminescent species that create their own light in the darkness. While this might sound beautiful rather than terrifying, consider the anglerfish. The female of this species sports a bioluminescent lure that dangles in front of her enormous fang-filled mouth. The mating habits of the anglerfish are perhaps even more disturbing than its hunting techniques. The male anglerfish, which is tiny compared to the female, bites into his mate's body when he finds her. Multiple males can attach to a single female, creating a grotesque collection of partially absorbed mates hanging from her body like gruesome trophies. Let's surface briefly to consider one of the ocean's most perplexing phenomena, rogue waves. For centuries, sailors reported encountering massive vertical walls of water that appeared without warning, even in relatively calm seas. These waves, often described as holes in the ocean or walls of water, were dismissed as maritime folklore until 1995. That year, an oil platform in the North Sea recorded a rogue wave measuring 84 feet tall, in an area where the significant wave height was only around 40 feet. The wave, now known as the Dropner wave, provided the first scientific evidence that these maritime monsters were real. Since then, satellite data has confirmed that rogue waves occur far more frequently than previously thought. Unlike tsunamis, which are caused by underwater earthquakes or landslides, rogue waves form through a complex interaction of ocean currents and wave energy. They can appear literally out of nowhere, even on relatively calm days, rising to heights that dwarf surrounding waves before disappearing just as suddenly. What makes rogue waves particularly terrifying is their unpredictability. Modern weather forecasting and wave modeling systems cannot reliably predict when or where they will form. Even massive container ships and oil tankers, some of the largest human-made structures on Earth, have been sunk by these oceanic anomalies. In 2001, 2 cruise ships, the Bremen and the Caledonian Star, were struck by separate rogue waves in the South Atlantic. Both ships survived but sustained significant damage to their bridge windows, more than 90 feet above the waterline. Scientists now believe that many of the thousands of ships that have disappeared without a trace throughout maritime history may have encountered rogue waves. The phenomenon provides a possible explanation for at least some vessels that vanished in calm weather, leaving no survivors and often no wreckage. The ocean simply opened up and swallowed them whole, leaving no witnesses to tell the tale. Among the most chilling maritime mysteries are ghost ships, vessels found drifting at sea, with their crews mysteriously vanished. Perhaps the most famous ghost ship in history is the Mary Celeste, discovered adrift in the Atlantic Ocean in December 1872. The captain's log showed nothing unusual until the final entry, and the crew's personal belongings remained undisturbed. Even the ship's lifeboat was still attached, indicating the crew hadn't abandoned ship in an emergency. In 1921, the schooner Carol A.D. Deering was found stranded on a North Carolina beach, its entire crew missing. Meals had been prepared but not eaten, and personal belongings remained in place. The ship's log and navigation equipment had vanished, and 2 lifeboats were missing. Several other vessels disappeared in the same area around the same time, leading to speculation about piracy, mutiny, or supernatural phenomena. No trace of the crew was ever found, and the U.S. government officially closed the investigation in 1922, with no conclusions. More recently, in 2006, the tanker Jian Sing was discovered drifting off the coast of Australia with no crew aboard. The ship's engines were inoperable, and no identifying documents could be found. Authorities were unable to determine the ship's origin, ownership, or the fate of its crew. After attempts to identify the vessel failed, it was eventually sunk by the Australian government, taking its mysteries to the ocean floor. In 2007, the catamaran Kaz-2 was found drifting off the coast of Australia with its engine running, a laptop computer still turned on, and food on the table. The 3-man crew had vanished without a trace. The vessel was intact, with no signs of damage or struggle. Life jackets remained stowed. The emergency beacon was unused, and a video camera contained footage taken by the crew just hours before their disappearance. The final frames showed nothing unusual or alarming. One of the most disturbing ghost ship cases occurred in 2013 when the 80-foot yacht Lunatic was discovered drifting about 120 miles off the coast of Barbados. The vessel was in perfect condition, with expensive equipment still on board, including a laptop computer and satellite phone. A half-eaten meal was found in the galley, suggesting the 5-person crew had disappeared suddenly during dinner. Weather records showed no storms in the area at the time the yacht was estimated to have been abandoned. No distress signal was ever received. Let's dive deeper now into the realm of underwater structures and ruins that challenge our understanding of human history. Off the coast of Japan lies one of the most puzzling underwater discoveries of the 20th century, the Yonaguni Monument. Discovered in 1987 by a diver exploring the waters off Yonaguni Island, this massive underwater structure features what appear to be terraces, columns, and even a pyramid-like construction. Some researchers believe it to be the remnant of an ancient civilization, potentially dating back 10,000 years or more, long before conventional history suggests humans were capable of such architectural feats. If the Yonaguni Monument is indeed artificial, it would rewrite our understanding of human history. It would mean that an advanced civilization existed during the last ice age, capable of sophisticated stone cutting and architectural design. Such a civilization would have thrived when sea levels were much lower, only to be gradually submerged as the ice age ended and waters rose. The debate continues, with no definitive conclusion in sight. In 2001, researchers using advanced sonar technology discovered what appeared to be geometric structures beneath the waves of Cuba's coast, in an area now known as the Cuban Underwater City. The sonar images revealed an urban complex covering about 2 square kilometers, including what seemed to be pyramids, circular buildings, and massive granite blocks in remarkably symmetric formations. Geologists estimated that the area would have been above water at least 6,000 years ago, predating all known advanced civilizations in the Americas. Initial excitement about the discovery was tempered by the extreme difficulty of exploring the site, which lies about 2,300 feet below the surface, too deep for conventional scuba equipment, but not deep enough to justify the expense of submersibles. Political complications between Cuba and the United States further hampered research efforts. As a result, the true nature of these structures remains unconfirmed, leaving us to wonder what ancient secrets might lie beneath those Caribbean waters. In the Bay of Cambay off India's western coast, researchers discovered an extensive underwater complex in 2001 that appeared to include the ruins of an ancient city. Artifacts recovered from the site, including pottery, sculptures, and human remains, were carbon dated to approximately 9,500 years ago. This would make the Cambay ruins older than the Sumerian civilization, traditionally considered humanity's first urban society. Even more puzzling, some of the artifacts displayed writing-like symbols that don't match any known ancient script. The Cambay discovery suggests that advanced human civilization may have existed thousands of years earlier than previously thought. Some researchers propose that this could be evidence of the legendary city of Dwarka, described in ancient Hindu texts as having been submerged beneath the ocean. If confirmed, these ruins would force a dramatic reconsideration of human history and capabilities. However, as with many such discoveries, further research has been hampered by practical difficulties of underwater archaeology and political complications. In 2013, divers exploring cenotes, natural sinkholes in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, discovered what appeared to be a massive underwater cave system containing both human and animal remains dating back to the last ice age. Even more puzzling, some of the human remains showed physiological features inconsistent with known early American populations. These underwater caves have preserved evidence of human activity during a period when the caves would have been dry, before rising sea levels filled them with water at the end of the last ice age. They provide a unique time capsule of a period in human history, about which we know very little. The preservation conditions in these underwater environments are exceptional, allowing researchers to recover organic materials that would have decomposed in most other settings. What other evidence of early human civilization might be hiding in underwater caves around the world, waiting to be discovered? First described by the Greek philosopher Plato, around 360 BCE, Atlantis was supposedly an advanced island civilization that sank beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune. For centuries, Atlantis was dismissed as merely a philosophical allegory or literary invention. However, modern underwater archaeology has discovered numerous submerged cities and evidence of advanced ancient civilizations that were indeed swallowed by rising seas. While none of these discoveries definitively proves Plato's Atlantis existed exactly as described, they demonstrate that his account of an advanced civilization disappearing beneath the waves was not as fantastical as once believed. The question is not whether such events occurred, but whether any of them correlate with Plato's specific description. In 2018, researchers using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar identified what appears to be a massive circular structure off the coast of Spain, in an area that matches several of Plato's geographical clues about Atlantis. The structure, approximately 2.5 miles in diameter, lies in shallow water and appears to have concentric rings similar to Plato's description of the Atlantean capital. Preliminary dating of samples from the site suggests it was submerged approximately 11,000 years ago, roughly when Plato indicated Atlantis disappeared. Whether any of these represent the actual Atlantis of legend remains unproven. However, they collectively demonstrate that our oceans conceal evidence of civilizations far more ancient and potentially more advanced than conventional history acknowledges. How many more sunken cities and monuments remain undiscovered in the vast, unexplored regions of our ocean floor? Speaking of unexplored regions, let's consider what might be hiding in the ocean's most remote corners. Of those ocean-dwelling species, we've identified perhaps 10% at most. This means that millions of species, possibly tens of millions, remain undiscovered, particularly in the deep sea. In 2020, researchers exploring the Mariana Trench recorded footage of a translucent creature approximately 60 feet long, moving with apparent intelligence through the crushing depths. The footage remains controversial, with some scientists suggesting it shows a previously unknown species of giant jellyfish, while others argue it might be a colonial organism, multiple creatures functioning as one. A few researchers have even proposed that it might represent an entirely new branch on the evolutionary tree, neither plant nor animal in the conventional sense. Deep-sea hydrothermal vents harbor some of the most extreme organisms on Earth, creatures that thrive in superheated water laden with toxic chemicals. These ecosystems exist completely independent of sunlight, deriving energy instead from chemical processes in a manner more similar to alien life as imagined by scientists than to most Earth organisms. Some of these vent-dwelling species can survive in temperatures exceeding 230 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to cook conventional marine life instantly. Each vent system is like an island in the deep ocean, separated from others by vast distances. Yet somehow, when new vents form, they are quickly colonized by specialized organisms. These single-celled creatures can survive without food for potentially thousands of years, entering a dormant state when resources are scarce and reactivating when conditions improve. Even more remarkably, they show no signs of aging or cellular degradation over time. Theoretically, barring physical destruction, they could live forever. The implications of such discoveries extend beyond biology. If life can evolve to survive in the most extreme environments on Earth, crushing pressure, near freezing or boiling temperatures, toxic chemicals, no sunlight, then the potential for life elsewhere in the universe expands dramatically. Our ocean depths may be the closest analog we have to extraterrestrial environments like Europa's subsurface ocean or the methane seas of Titan. By studying what's possible in Earth's oceanic extremes, we gain insight into what might be possible beyond our planet. Let's now examine some of the ocean's most perplexing biological mysteries, starting with bioluminescence, the ability of living organisms to produce light. This bioluminescence serves various purposes: attracting prey, confusing predators, finding mates, or communicating with others of their kind. What's particularly fascinating about bioluminescence is how it evolved independently in so many different marine species. It's as if the eternal darkness of the deep ocean exerted such strong evolutionary pressure that completely unrelated organisms all developed this same extraordinary ability. The chemical processes that different species use to generate light vary widely, but the end result is the same: creatures that carry their own ghostly lanterns through the abyssal depths. Some deep-sea organisms have developed bioluminescent systems, so sophisticated they can control the color, intensity, and pattern of their light displays. Certain squid species can match the exact quality of the faint sunlight filtering down from above, making them virtually invisible when viewed from below. Others can produce complex patterns of flashing lights that serve as a visual language, allowing communication in an environment where sound is often impractical. Perhaps most unsettling are the creatures that use bioluminescence specifically to lure prey to their deaths. The deep-sea dragonfish, for instance, has evolved a red bioluminescence that is invisible to most other deep-sea creatures, allowing it to illuminate and track prey without being detected. It's essentially using a spotlight that only it can see, hunting in what appears to be perfect darkness to its victims. In 2019, researchers discovered a species of deep-sea shark that appears to use its bioluminescence not just for hunting, but for a form of hypnosis. The shark produces a pulsating pattern of light that seems to mesmerize smaller fish, causing them to swim directly into its jaws without attempting to escape. This discovery suggests that bioluminescence may serve even more complex and sinister purposes than previously understood. Another fascinating oceanic mystery involves what scientists call living fossils, species that have remained virtually unchanged for millions of years. The coelacanth, for instance, was known only from fossils and believed extinct for 65 million years, until a living specimen was caught off South Africa in 1938. This prehistoric-looking fish, with its lobed fins and armored scales, offers a direct glimpse into Earth's distant past. Even more ancient is the horseshoe crab, which has remained essentially unchanged for over 450 million years. These creatures were already ancient when the first dinosaurs evolved, and they survived whatever cataclysm wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. Their blue blood contains a compound called limulus amebocyte lysate, which is so sensitive to bacterial contamination that it remains vital to modern medicine for testing the sterility of vaccines and surgical implements. Perhaps the most unsettling living fossil is the frilled shark, a serpentine predator that has patrolled the deep ocean virtually unchanged for 80 million years. With its primitive features and rows of backward-pointing teeth, it appears more like something from a prehistoric nightmare than a modern shark. These creatures typically live at depths of 3,000 feet or more, but occasionally venture into shallower waters when dying or disoriented. The goblin shark represents another evolutionary relic, with a lineage dating back at least 125 million years. Its most distinctive and disturbing feature is its protrusible jaw, which can launch forward to capture prey and then retract back into its face. Combined with its flattened, blade-like snout and nail-like teeth, this gives the goblin shark an appearance unlike any other living creature. It's as if it evolved along a completely different path from all other sharks, preserving features from a time before modern shark species had fully developed. These living fossils raise profound questions about evolution and extinction. Why have these particular species remained virtually unchanged while countless others evolved or disappeared? What secrets do they carry in their ancient DNA that has allowed them to survive multiple mass extinction events? And perhaps most unsettlingly, what does their continued existence tell us about the deep ocean's capacity to preserve what the surface world has long forgotten? Now let's explore some of the ocean's most mysterious disappearances beyond the famous Bermuda Triangle cases we discussed earlier. In February 1963, the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a converted T2 tanker carrying molten sulfur, disappeared in the Florida Straits. Despite its size, 524 feet long and weighing over 7,000 tons, the ship vanished without sending any distress signals. All 39 crew members were lost, and only minimal debris was ever recovered. What's particularly perplexing is that weather conditions were mild when the ship disappeared, and no other vessels in the area reported any unusual circumstances. The case of the U.S. Cyclops, which we mentioned briefly in our Bermuda Triangle discussion, deserves closer examination. This massive naval vessel disappeared in March 1918 with 309 people aboard. The timing, during World War I, initially led to speculation about German submarine attacks. However, German naval records examined after the war showed no U-boats operating in that area at that time. The ship's captain, George Worley, had a controversial reputation and was known to be a German sympathizer, despite commanding an American military vessel. This led to theories about potential sabotage or even intentional desertion to enemy forces. What makes the Cyclops case particularly bizarre is that the ship was equipped with two powerful radio transmitters, yet no distress signal was ever received. Whatever happened to the vessel occurred so suddenly that the crew had no time to call for help. Modern investigations suggest the ship may have fallen victim to a massive rogue wave, potentially capsizing it so quickly that no one could reach the radio room. Others point to structural defects in the ship's design that might have caused catastrophic hull failure under certain conditions. In December 2014, the cargo ship Taiching 21 was found drifting in the Pacific Ocean without its 29-member crew. The ship's lifeboat and 3 life rafts were missing, suggesting a planned evacuation. However, no distress call had been issued, and conditions were reported as normal in the ship's final radio contact. The vessel showed signs of a fire in the crew quarters, but it wasn't severe enough to threaten the ship's seaworthiness. Personal belongings, including wallets with money and identification, remained in the crew's cabins. Perhaps most disturbing were bloodstains found on the ship's deck and signs of violence in some areas of the vessel. Investigators eventually concluded that the crew likely fell victim to pirates, who forced them into the lifeboats before killing them at sea. However, no bodies were ever recovered, and the complete absence of any distress call remains puzzling. Modern vessels like the Taiching 21 have multiple communication systems, including emergency beacons designed to activate automatically in a crisis. In 1976, the Berge Istra, a massive Norwegian oil tanker, disappeared in the Pacific with 32 crew members aboard. The 225,000-ton vessel was one of the largest ships in the world at the time. Despite its size, it vanished without a trace until weeks later, 2 survivors were found drifting in a lifeboat. They reported that the ship had experienced a series of massive explosions in its empty oil tanks, tearing the vessel apart so quickly that only they managed to escape. What caused these explosions in supposedly empty tanks remains unexplained. Experts later theorized that residual oil vapors might have accumulated in the tanks, creating an explosive mixture. However, modern oil tankers have sophisticated venting systems specifically designed to prevent such accumulations. For all these systems to fail simultaneously would be extraordinarily unlikely. Some investigators have suggested that the survivors' account may not represent the full story, pointing to inconsistencies in their testimonies. Let's now explore the mystery of underwater earthquakes and their sometimes catastrophic consequences. The ocean floor is far from static. It's a dynamic environment where tectonic plates collide, separate, and slide past each other in a continuous geological dance. When these movements occur suddenly, they generate some of the most powerful forces on Earth, underwater earthquakes that can trigger tsunamis capable of devastating entire coastlines. What makes underwater earthquakes particularly insidious is their stealth. A massive seismic event can occur miles beneath the ocean floor, with no visible signs on the surface. Ships sailing directly above might feel nothing more than a slight tremor. Yet the energy released can travel through the water column, potentially emerging as a tsunami thousands of miles away. By the time the danger becomes apparent, it's often too late for effective evacuation. What's particularly unsettling about this catastrophe is that the earthquake occurred with no warning signs that existing monitoring systems could detect. One moment, coastal communities were going about their normal activities. The next, they were being swept away by walls of water up to 100 feet high. Since then, scientists have discovered that certain deep-sea trenches appear to be building pressure toward future mega-earthquakes. The Cascadia subduction zone off the Pacific Northwest coast of the United States, for instance, has been ominously quiet for over 300 years. Geological evidence suggests it produces magnitude 9.0 or greater earthquakes approximately every 500 years, with the last one occurring in January 1700. When not if this fault ruptures again, it could generate a tsunami that would devastate coastal communities from Northern California to British Columbia. What's particularly chilling about these submarine fault lines is how little we know about them. Even with modern technology, we can only monitor a fraction of the seismic activity occurring beneath the ocean floor. Many underwater earthquakes, particularly those in remote regions, go entirely undetected unless they're powerful enough to register on distant monitoring stations. How many seismic time bombs are ticking away in the depths, accumulating pressure that will eventually be released with catastrophic consequences? Now let's delve into the mysterious world of ocean cryptids, creatures reported by eyewitnesses, but unconfirmed by science. Perhaps the most famous ocean cryptid is the Kraken, a gigantic squid-like creature described in Norse legends as capable of dragging entire ships beneath the waves. For centuries, the Kraken was dismissed as sailors' superstition until the discovery of the giant squid proved that enormous cephalopods did indeed exist in the ocean depths. While the actual giant squid isn't quite as large as the legendary Kraken, specimens measuring up to 43 feet long have been documented. Modern giant squid sightings are rare but consistent. These creatures typically inhabit depths of 1,000 to 3,000 feet, rarely venturing into shallow waters, except when dying. Most specimens discovered have been either dead or dying individuals that washed ashore or were caught in fishing nets. Only in 2012 did scientists finally capture video footage of a living giant squid in its natural deep-sea habitat, confirming aspects of a creature that had been relegated to myth for centuries. Even more elusive is the Megalodon, a prehistoric shark believed to have gone extinct approximately 3.6 million years ago. With an estimated length of up to 60 feet and jaws powerful enough to crush a small whale, the Megalodon was one of the most formidable predators ever to exist. While conventional science maintains that this species is extinct, some cryptozoologists point to unexplained attacks on whales and unusually large shark sightings as potential evidence that isolated populations might have survived in the ocean's deepest regions. In 1918, passengers and crew aboard the SS Britannia reported seeing an enormous, shark-like creature in the South Atlantic. According to multiple witnesses, including the ship's captain, the creature was at least 70 feet long, with a mouth large enough to swallow a cow. The Cadborosaurus, or caddy, is another reported sea cryptid, primarily sighted along the Pacific coast of North America. Described as having a horse-like head on a long neck, a humped body, and a serrated tail, caddy has been reported by hundreds of witnesses since the 1930s, including fishermen, Coast Guard personnel, and even marine biologists. In 1937, what appeared to be a juvenile Cadborosaurus was allegedly found in the stomach of a sperm whale processed at a whaling station in British Columbia. Photographs were taken, but the specimen itself was discarded before formal scientific examination could occur. Then there's the bloop creature theory. While we discussed the bloop sound earlier and mentioned the current scientific consensus that it was likely an ice quake, some marine biologists remain unconvinced. They point out that the sound's acoustic pattern more closely resembles that of a living organism than a geological event. If the bloop was indeed produced by a living creature, it would have to be many times larger than a blue whale, the current record holder for largest animal on Earth. Some speculate that deep-sea trenches might harbor megafauna that rarely if ever venture into shallower waters where they could be detected. The almost complete darkness, extreme pressure, and vast unexplored territories of the deep ocean could potentially conceal creatures that surface-dwelling humans have never encountered. Until we develop technology capable of thoroughly exploring these remote environments, the possibility of undiscovered megapredators lurking in the abyss remains an open question. Let's now explore the mysterious phenomenon of underwater vortices and whirlpools. While small whirlpools are common in many bodies of water, truly massive oceanic vortices are rarer and far more dangerous. The Saltstraumen and Maelstrom near Bodø, Norway, is one of the world's strongest tidal currents, creating whirlpools up to 33 feet in diameter and 16 feet deep. Water moves through the narrow strait at speeds up to 25 miles per hour, generating vortices powerful enough to drag small vessels underwater. Even more infamous is the Maelstraumen, also known as the Maelstraumen, or original Maelstrom, located off Norway's Lofoten Islands. This massive whirlpool system, which inspired Edgar Allan Poe's famous story, A Descent into the Maelstrom, can reach diameters of over 160 feet during peak tidal conditions. For centuries, the Maelstraumen was considered one of the most dangerous maritime hazards in the world, capable of dragging even large ships to their doom. What makes these massive vortices particularly terrifying is their unpredictability. They can form suddenly when tidal conditions align with certain underwater topographies, sometimes appearing in locations where they've never been recorded before. Once caught in such a vortex, even modern vessels with powerful engines can struggle to escape the inward spiraling current. These oceanic vortices are so large that ships can pass through them without crews realizing they've entered a massive circular current system. They function like slowly rotating underwater hurricanes, transporting vast quantities of water, heat, salt, and marine life across ocean basins. What's particularly unsettling about these massive vortices is their potential impact on climate and marine ecosystems. They can trap and transport entire communities of marine organisms across vast distances, potentially introducing invasive species to new environments. They also play a crucial role in distributing heat throughout the ocean, making them key factors in global climate patterns. As climate change alters ocean temperatures and currents, these vortex systems may become more frequent or more powerful with unpredictable consequences. Now let's explore one of the ocean's most enigmatic features: underwater rivers and lakes. While it might seem impossible for a river or lake to exist underwater, these phenomena are very real and utterly alien to our surface-dwelling experience. Underwater rivers form when dense, salty water flows along the ocean floor, creating distinct channels that behave much like rivers on land. These submarine rivers can be massive. The underwater river discovered in the Black Sea in 2010 is over 35 miles long and more than 115 feet deep in places. What makes these underwater rivers particularly eerie is how closely they mimic their terrestrial counterparts. They have distinct banks, floodplains, waterfalls, and even rippled surfaces caused by the flowing current. Fish and other marine creatures swim above these rivers, much as birds might fly over a surface river, occasionally diving down to feed on the unique organisms that inhabit these strange boundary environments. Even more bizarre are underwater lakes, formed when extremely saline water settles in depressions on the seafloor. The dense, briny water creates a distinct surface with waves and ripples, complete with shorelines and even beaches of accumulated sediment. Some of these underwater lakes even have their own tidal systems and waves, creating a surreal mirror image of surface conditions deep beneath the ocean. The water in these submarine lakes is often 4 or 5 times saltier than the surrounding ocean, and may contain high concentrations of methane or hydrogen sulfide, making them toxic to most marine life. Yet specialized ecosystems have evolved around their margins, with certain species of mussels, tube worms, and specialized bacteria thriving in these extreme conditions. Some underwater lakes even feature rings of dead marine life around their edges, organisms that ventured too close to the toxic waters and succumbed to their deadly chemistry. In 2015, researchers discovered an underwater lake in the Gulf of Mexico that they named the Jacuzzi of Despair due to its extremely hot toxic waters. Nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit and highly acidic, this underwater lake contains multiple toxic compounds that prove fatal to almost any creature that swims into it. The lake's edge is littered with the preserved corpses of crabs, fish, and other marine organisms that made the mistake of entering its waters. The high salt content prevents decomposition, creating an eerie underwater graveyard. Perhaps most unsettling about these underwater lakes is their stability. Some have likely existed in the same location for thousands of years, their alien chemistry creating environments that have allowed unique organisms to evolve in isolation. When scientists sample the mud at the bottom of these lakes, they often find microbial life forms that exist nowhere else on Earth, creatures that have adapted to conditions that would instantly kill most other organisms. Let's now examine the mysterious world of ocean megaplumes, massive underwater explosions of superheated water that can dramatically alter local ecosystems. First documented in the 1980s, these enormous geothermal events occur when underwater volcanic activity causes a sudden release of mineral-rich water at temperatures exceeding 750 degrees Fahrenheit. The resulting plume can rise thousands of feet through the water column, carrying toxins, minerals, and heat energy far from its source. What makes megaplumes particularly dramatic is their scale. The largest documented megaplume, recorded in the Pacific Ocean in 1986, contained more than 10 cubic miles of superheated water. That's enough to fill over 40 million Olympic-sized swimming pools with water hot enough to cook any conventional marine life instantly. These events release energy equivalent to a small nuclear explosion, yet occur deep enough in the ocean that surface vessels might detect nothing more than unusual wave patterns. In 2011, oceanographers surveying the South Pacific discovered evidence of a megaplume so massive that it had fundamentally altered deep ocean currents across thousands of square miles. The event, which likely occurred several months before discovery, had introduced such a large quantity of heat into the deep ocean that it created a persistent warm water anomaly detectable more than a year later. Marine life in the affected area showed signs of mass mortality, followed by unusual recolonization patterns, suggesting a catastrophic disruption of the local ecosystem. What's particularly unsettling about megaplumes is their unpredictability. Current technology cannot forecast these events, and their potential impacts on marine ecosystems, ocean currents, and potentially even climate patterns remain poorly understood. The deep ocean is also home to vast deposits of methane hydrates, ice-like compounds where methane gas is trapped within a crystal structure of water molecules. These deposits, often called fire ice, because they will literally burn if ignited while still in solid form, represent one of the largest carbon reservoirs on Earth. Methane hydrates remain stable, only under specific conditions of high pressure and low temperature, precisely the conditions found in deep ocean environments. If these deposits are disturbed, or if ocean temperatures increase significantly, the hydrates can break down, releasing enormous quantities of methane gas. Some scientists have proposed that past periods of rapid global warming, particularly the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum about 55 million years ago, may have been triggered by large-scale methane hydrate destabilization. During this period, global temperatures increased by 5-8 degrees Celsius within just a few thousand years, a geologically instantaneous climate shift that caused widespread extinctions. In 2020, researchers identified areas in the Arctic Ocean where methane hydrates appear to be destabilizing as ocean temperatures rise. These regions show increasing methane emissions from the seafloor, with some areas featuring continuous streams of methane bubbles rising through the water column. What makes this situation particularly concerning is the potential for a runaway feedback loop. As released methane accelerates global warming, ocean temperatures increase further, potentially destabilizing even more methane hydrates. This positive feedback cycle could theoretically trigger a catastrophic climate shift far more rapid than current models predict. Let's now explore one of the ocean's most perplexing acoustic phenomena, the mysterious underwater sound known as the whistle. First recorded by Soviet submarines during the Cold War, and later confirmed by American underwater listening posts, the whistle is a high-pitched sound that seems to follow certain vessels across vast distances. Unlike biological sounds or known geological phenomena, the whistle maintains a constant frequency and can persist for days or even weeks at a time. Soviet submarine commanders became so disturbed by the whistle that they developed specific evasive protocols to escape it. These involved rapid depth changes and unusual propulsion patterns designed to break contact with whatever might be generating the sound. Declassified reports indicate that these maneuvers were only occasionally successful. In many cases, the whistle would disappear briefly, only to return hours later, seemingly having found the submarine again. American naval researchers have proposed various explanations for the whistle, ranging from unusual resonance patterns in submarine hulls to previously unknown deep-sea creatures that might track vessels by sound. Some naval acoustic specialists have suggested it might result from a specific interaction between certain sonar frequencies and layers of water with different temperatures and salinity, essentially a form of underwater acoustic mirroring. Perhaps most unsettling are reports that the whistle sometimes changes pattern in ways that suggest intelligence. Submarine crews have documented instances where the sounds seem to respond to changes in their vessel's behavior, sometimes shifting frequency or intensity in patterns that appeared almost conversational. While mainstream science dismisses suggestions of intelligent communication, some marine biologists remain open to the possibility that the whistle might represent contact with an unknown form of marine life with sophisticated acoustic capabilities. The phenomenon remains classified by most naval authorities, with only limited information available in declassified documents. What we do know is that the whistle continues to be reported by submarine crews from various nations, particularly in certain deep ocean regions of the North Atlantic and Western Pacific. Whatever generates this persistent, pursuing sound remains one of the ocean's most enduring mysteries. Now let's explore the phenomenon of Milky Seas, rare oceanic events where vast areas of water glow with an eerie, uniform white light. The effect is so bright that it's visible from space and has been captured by satellite imagery. For centuries, mariners reported these glowing waters with a mixture of wonder and dread. The earliest documented account appears in Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but sailors had been encountering the phenomenon long before that. Many cultures developed superstitions around Milky Seas, with some believing they mark the boundaries between the natural world and the supernatural. Modern science has determined that Milky Seas are caused by massive colonies of bioluminescent bacteria, specifically Vibrio harviae, which can reproduce explosively under certain conditions. Unlike most bioluminescent organisms that flash briefly to attract mates or confuse predators, these bacteria produce a continuous glow that can persist for days or even weeks. What remains mysterious is what triggers these enormous bacterial blooms and why they occur only in certain ocean regions. What's particularly unsettling about Milky Seas is their sudden appearance and disappearance. Ships have reported sailing from normal dark waters into glowing seas so bright that they cast shadows on the vessel's deck, only to exit the phenomenon just as abruptly hours or days later. In 2005, scientists confirmed a Milky Sea event in the Indian Ocean that covered over 5,000 square miles, an area larger than Connecticut. Satellite imagery showed the glowing region persisted for several days before gradually dissipating. Some researchers suggest these events might become more common as ocean chemistry changes due to climate factors, potentially creating conditions favorable to these bacterial explosions. Let's now examine the mystery of underwater stone circles that have been discovered in various locations around the world. In 1995, divers exploring the waters off Yonaguni Island, Japan, discovered a series of perfectly circular formations on the seafloor. These circles, measuring approximately 6 feet in diameter, feature complex geometric patterns of ridges and grooves within their circumference. Similar underwater circles have since been discovered off the coasts of Italy, Greece, and Croatia. In each case, the formations feature remarkably precise geometry that seems unlikely to have occurred naturally. Some researchers estimate they may be thousands of years old, potentially dating to a time when sea levels were much lower and these areas were above water. In 2013, underwater photographer Yoji Okada documented what appeared to be elaborate circular patterns on the seafloor near Japan. These mystery circles, as they came to be known, measured about 6 feet in diameter and featured intricate radiating patterns. After extensive observation, researchers discovered they were created by male pufferfish, which spend days creating these patterns to attract mates. This discovery raised the possibility that other underwater circles might have biological rather than human origins. However, not all underwater circles have been so easily explained. Unlike the pufferfish circles, these formations involve stones weighing hundreds of pounds precisely arranged in concentric rings. No known Baltic Sea creature could move objects of this size, yet the depth and location make human involvement from the pre-modern era extremely unlikely. These mysterious underwater circles continue to baffle marine archaeologists and biologists alike. Could they be the result of currently unknown natural processes? Or might they represent evidence of interaction with non-human intelligence, as some more speculative researchers have suggested? Until further research provides definitive answers, these perfect circles beneath the waves remain one of the ocean's most geometric mysteries. Let's now explore one of the ocean's most dangerous mysteries, oceanic viruses and their potential threat to human health. The ocean contains approximately 10 million viruses per milliliter of seawater, making it the largest reservoir of viral diversity on the planet. Most of these viruses infect only marine organisms and pose no direct threat to humans. However, as climate change alters ocean temperatures and currents, previously isolated viral populations are being transported to new environments, where they may encounter new hosts. In 2018, researchers identified several novel virus families in previously ice-covered Arctic waters that were becoming more accessible due to climate change. While these particular viruses appeared to target only marine microorganisms, the discovery highlighted the potential for emerging pathogens as previously isolated ecosystems interact in new ways. The rapid evolution rate of viruses means they can potentially jump between species when introduced to new environments, sometimes with devastating consequences. First discovered in 2008, these complex entities can alter the behavior of their viral hosts, potentially increasing or decreasing their virulence. The ocean contains the highest known diversity of virophages, creating what one researcher described as viral ecosystems of mind-boggling complexity. How these viral interactions might evolve as ocean conditions change remains largely unknown. In 2020, marine biologists identified what they termed giant ocean viruses in deep-sea hydrothermal vent communities. These viral particles are considerably larger than typical viruses and contain genetic material from multiple sources, suggesting complex evolutionary histories. Some contain genes previously found only in bacteria or even in eukaryotic organisms, blurring the traditional boundaries between different types of microorganisms. What makes these giant viruses particularly unsettling is their resilience. They can remain viable under conditions that would destroy most biological entities: extreme pressure, near boiling temperatures, high salinity, and even radiation levels that would be lethal to most organisms. This resilience suggests they could potentially survive transport between widely different environments, possibly even from the deep ocean to terrestrial settings. Climate change, deep-sea mining, and other human interventions in previously undisturbed ocean ecosystems may expose us to viral lineages that have evolved in isolation for millions of years. The potential consequences of such exposure remain one of the most significant unknown factors in marine health research. Now let's explore another mysterious ocean phenomenon: sudden underwater landslides that can occur with devastating consequences. What makes submarine landslides particularly dangerous is their unpredictability. While earthquakes are the most common trigger, landslides can also be initiated by factors as subtle as changes in water pressure, gas hydrate destabilization, or even the gradual accumulation of sediment beyond a critical threshold. Since these processes occur far below the ocean surface, they provide few if any warning signs visible from above. In 1998, a submarine landslide off Papua New Guinea generated a tsunami that killed over 2,200 people. What made this event particularly puzzling was that the triggering earthquake was relatively modest, only magnitude 7.0, which wouldn't typically generate a significant tsunami. The underwater landslide it triggered, however, moved nearly a cubic mile of seafloor material, creating a wall of water that struck coastal communities with little warning. Even more concerning are so-called passive margin landslides, which can occur without any seismic trigger. The largest known submarine landslide, the Storge slide off the coast of Norway, occurred approximately 8,200 years ago and involved the movement of over 840 cubic miles of seafloor material, enough to cover the entire UK in a layer 25 feet deep. This massive event generated a tsunami that flooded coastal areas across the North Atlantic, with waves estimated to have reached 65 feet high in some locations. What's particularly unsettling is that conditions similar to those that preceded the Storge slide currently exist in several locations worldwide, including parts of the Atlantic seaboard of the United States. As climate change warms ocean waters, methane hydrates that help stabilize some underwater slopes are beginning to destabilize. This process could potentially trigger submarine landslides comparable to historical events like Storge, with devastating consequences for coastal populations. In 2020, researchers using advanced sonar technology identified evidence of imminent submarine landslides in several locations previously thought stable. Unlike earthquake zones, which are generally well mapped and monitored, potential submarine landslide areas have received far less attention in disaster preparedness efforts. Now let's explore one of the ocean's most enduring mysteries, the disappearance of the USS Scorpion, a nuclear submarine that vanished in the Atlantic in 1968. On May 22nd of that year, the Scorpion disappeared while returning to its home port in Norfolk, Virginia, after a deployment in the Mediterranean Sea. All 99 crew members were lost, and the submarine's wreckage wasn't located until 5 months later in nearly 10,000 feet of water about 400 miles southwest of the Azores. What makes the Scorpion case particularly mysterious is that the submarine was in routine communication with naval authorities until just hours before its disappearance. There was no distress call, no indication of mechanical problems, and no reported enemy activity in the area. The last message from the Scorpion was a routine communication about its estimated arrival time in Norfolk, nothing suggesting the catastrophe that was about to unfold. When the wreckage was finally located, it showed evidence that the submarine had imploded due to crushing water pressure after sinking below its maximum operating depth. This indicated that the hull had been breached, or that the submarine had lost power and control while still operational, allowing it to sink beyond its structural limits. But what caused this breach or loss of control remains disputed more than 5 decades later. Official Navy investigations pointed to a possible torpedo malfunction, specifically that a conventional torpedo might have activated inside its tube, forcing the crew to jettison it. The torpedo could then have circled back and struck the submarine. Other theories suggested mechanical failure, particularly involving the Scorpion's trash disposal unit, which might have malfunctioned while open to the sea, causing catastrophic flooding. However, some former naval officers and researchers have proposed more disturbing possibilities. The timing of the Scorpion's disappearance coincided with increased Soviet naval activity in the Atlantic, leading to speculation about a possible unreported hostile encounter. Some have suggested that the Scorpion might have been tracking a Soviet submarine when something went catastrophically wrong, either due to enemy action or while attempting to evade detection. What's particularly unsettling about the Scorpion case is how quickly the official investigation was concluded, and how many relevant documents remain classified more than 50 years later. The Scorpion carried advanced intelligence equipment and was reportedly involved in sensitive operations prior to its disappearance. Adding to the mystery is the fact that the Scorpion's disappearance occurred just months after another nuclear submarine, the Israeli INS Dakar, also vanished in the Mediterranean. The proximity of these events led to speculation about a potential connection, possibly involving new Soviet anti-submarine capabilities that Western intelligence was reluctant to acknowledge publicly. Let's now explore one of the ocean's most disturbing phenomena, the existence of hypoxic dead zones, where oxygen levels drop so low that most marine life either flees or suffocates. These zones have been expanding rapidly in recent decades, with over 400 now identified worldwide, covering a total area larger than the United Kingdom. Some of these dead zones are seasonal, while others persist year-round, creating vast underwater deserts devoid of most complex life forms. What makes dead zones particularly unsettling is their stealth. Unlike oil spills or other visible forms of pollution, hypoxia leaves no surface trace. Waters above a dead zone might appear perfectly normal, with the devastation occurring only in deeper layers where oxygen depletion is most severe. Fish and other mobile creatures that can detect the declining oxygen flee the area if possible, while less mobile organisms simply die in place. The largest dead zone in U.S. coastal waters forms annually in the Gulf of Mexico, covering up to 7,000 square miles during summer months. Created primarily by agricultural runoff flowing down the Mississippi River, this zone has been expanding since scientists began monitoring it in the 1970s. At its peak, oxygen levels dropped so low that any fish, crabs, or other gill-breathing creatures trapped in the area suffocate within hours. What's particularly disturbing is how these dead zones can appear suddenly and without warning. In 2002, fishermen off the coast of Oregon began pulling up traps filled with dead crabs from an area that had been productive just days earlier. Scientific investigation revealed that a previously unknown dead zone had formed, likely due to changes in ocean circulation patterns that brought low oxygen water closer to shore. This event devastated local fishing communities and led to the collapse of several commercially important species in the region. Warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen naturally, and increased temperatures accelerate the bacterial decomposition processes that consume oxygen. Some models suggest that by 2100, ocean oxygen levels could drop by an average of 3 to 4% worldwide, with much more severe declines in coastal areas and enclosed seas. This would represent a fundamental restructuring of marine ecosystems on a global scale. In 2019, researchers discovered what they termed cryptic dead zones, small but extremely hypoxic areas that occur at the microscale, often within seafloor sediments or in the immediate vicinity of decomposing organic matter. These localized oxygen deserts can form and dissipate within hours or days, creating transient killing fields that marine organisms have no evolutionary experience in detecting or avoiding. As ocean chemistry continues to change, these cryptic dead zones may become more frequent and more persistent. Now let's explore the mystery of light wheels, enormous circular patterns of light that sometimes appear on the ocean surface at night. Documented by mariners for centuries, these phenomena typically manifest as expanding rings or spirals of glowing water that can reach diameters of over a mile. Unlike bioluminescent displays caused by disturbed plankton, light wheels move in coordinated patterns that suggest some organizing force beyond simple water movement. One of the most detailed accounts comes from the USS Saratoga in 1971, when the aircraft carrier encountered a massive light wheel in the Gulf of Tonkin. Crew members reported watching glowing spokes of light rotating rapidly around a central hub, creating the appearance of a massive, luminous wheel on the water's surface. The phenomenon persisted for over 15 minutes before gradually fading, leaving the ocean dark once again. Similar observations have been reported from various ocean regions, with particular concentrations in the Indo-Pacific and parts of the Indian Ocean. The phenomenon is common enough in the Gulf of Thailand that local fishermen have specific folklore surrounding it, believing the lights represent the passage of spirits beneath the water. In some Asian fishing communities, light wheels are considered harbingers of exceptionally good or exceptionally poor fishing conditions in the days that follow. Scientists have proposed various explanations for light wheels, ranging from bioluminescent organisms responding to underwater disturbances to more exotic possibilities involving electrical or magnetic anomalies. One leading theory suggests they might result from bioluminescent plankton being disturbed by underlying circular wave patterns, potentially caused by interaction between internal ocean waves at different depths. What makes light wheels particularly perplexing is their organized behavior. Unlike most natural bioluminescent displays, which appear random or follow simple patterns of water disturbance, light wheels exhibit complex, geometric organization that can include perfect concentric circles, spirals, or radial patterns resembling spoked wheels. In 2015, researchers using night vision-equipped drones captured high-resolution footage of a light wheel event near Indonesia. Analysis revealed that the phenomenon correlated with subtle changes in water temperature and electrical conductivity, suggesting a possible connection to underwater seismic or hydrothermal activity. However, the precise mechanism that translates these physical changes into such spectacular visual displays remains poorly understood. Let's now turn our attention to one of the ocean's most persistent enigmas, underwater gravity anomalies that defy conventional explanation. These are regions where gravitational measurements deviate significantly from what would be expected based on known geological features, suggesting the presence of mass concentrations or deficits that don't appear on bathymetric surveys. One of the most significant gravity anomalies lies in the Hudson Bay region of Canada, where gravitational pull is measurably lower than in surrounding areas. Conversely, positive gravity anomalies, areas where gravitational pull is stronger than expected, have been detected in several deep ocean trenches, particularly in the Western Pacific. These anomalies suggest the presence of unusually dense material at depths greater than typical ocean floor surveys can detect. Some researchers propose that these might represent particularly dense intrusions of mantle material, while others suggest more exotic possibilities involving the accumulation of ultra-dense elements or compounds. What makes these gravity anomalies particularly intriguing is their potential relationship to ship and aircraft navigation issues. While modern GPS systems are largely immune to such effects, older navigation methods relying on inertial guidance or magnetic compasses could potentially be affected by these subtle gravitational variations. In 2017, oceanographers mapping the seafloor near the Bermuda Triangle identified a gravity anomaly that coincided with an area where multiple ships and aircraft had reported navigational instrument malfunctions prior to disappearing. The anomaly manifests as a roughly circular region, about 20 miles in diameter, where gravitational measurements fluctuate unpredictably over very short distances. Conventional geological explanations involving underwater mountains or trenches don't account for the observed pattern. Some fringe researchers have proposed more speculative explanations for these anomalies, ranging from trapped pockets of exotic matter to distortions in spacetime itself. While mainstream science dismisses such ideas, the fact remains that some underwater gravity anomalies haven't been fully explained by conventional geology. Until more detailed mapping of the deep ocean floor becomes possible, these gravitational puzzles remain one of the many mysteries hiding beneath the waves. Now let's explore the enigmatic world of underwater stone spheres, perfectly round stone balls found on the ocean floor in various locations around the world. Unlike natural formations, which typically show some irregularity, these spheres exhibit such perfect roundness that they appear manufactured rather than naturally formed. Yet their location, often hundreds of feet below sea level, raises profound questions about their origin. In 2003, divers exploring the waters off New Zealand discovered a collection of stone spheres ranging from a few inches to over 6 feet in diameter. What made these objects particularly puzzling was their perfect sphericity. Tests showed deviations from perfect roundness of less than 0.1%, comparable to precision-manufactured ball bearings. Moreover, the stones were arranged in patterns, suggesting deliberate placement rather than random distribution. Similar underwater stone spheres have been discovered near the Bahamas, Japan, and in the Baltic Sea. In each case, the objects show signs of having been in place for a very long time, with marine growth and sediment accumulation suggesting they've been underwater for centuries or even millennia. Yet their precision and arrangement point to intelligent creation rather than natural formation. Conventional geology offers few explanations for such perfectly spherical stones. While some natural processes can create roughly spherical formations, such as concretions or volcanic bombs, these typically show significant irregularities and rarely achieve the near-perfect roundness observed in these underwater discoveries. The precision involved would seem to require sophisticated manufacturing techniques. This leads to a profound archaeological mystery. If these spheres are indeed artifacts, they would have been created when sea levels were much lower, potentially 10,000 or more years ago during the last ice age. This timeline conflicts with conventional understanding of human technological development, which holds that the precision engineering required for such perfect sphericity wasn't developed until much later. Some researchers have proposed that these spheres might represent evidence of advanced ancient civilizations that existed before rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age submerged their coastal territories. Others suggest they might be navigational markers or astronomical alignment tools, similar to stone arrangements found on land in various ancient cultures. Whatever their origin and purpose, these perfect stone spheres beneath the waves represent one of archaeology's most perplexing oceanic mysteries. Let's now explore one of the ocean's most persistent sound phenomena, the mysterious upsweep that has been detected by underwater listening stations since the 1990s. Unlike the bloop, which was a single event, the upsweep is a continuous sound that follows a predictable seasonal pattern, becoming louder during spring and fall each year. What makes the upsweep particularly puzzling is its consistency and longevity. Most natural sound sources in the ocean, whether biological, geological, or meteorological, show variation over time as conditions change. The upsweep, however, has maintained the same basic acoustic signature for decades, suggesting a remarkably stable source. Yet it does show seasonal variation in intensity, hinting at some environmental influence. This has led some researchers to propose that it might be generated by fluid moving through underground chambers or thermal expansion and contraction of volcanic features. However, typical volcanic sounds tend to be more variable and don't show the precise frequency patterns observed in the upsweep. Other scientists have suggested biological origins, proposing that the sound might be produced by a previously unknown type of whale or other marine mammal. The seasonal variation could potentially correspond to migration or breeding patterns. However, the sound lacks the typical characteristics of known whale calls, and no known marine creature produces sounds with such consistent patterns over such extended periods. Perhaps most intriguingly, the upsweep appears to be getting louder over time. When first detected in the early 1990s, it was barely distinguishable from background ocean noise. By 2020, it had increased in volume by approximately 30 decibels, a thousand-fold increase in acoustic power. This progressive amplification suggests either a source that is growing stronger or one that is gradually moving closer to listening stations. Some fringe researchers have proposed more exotic explanations, suggesting the sound might be generated by human-made structures operating autonomously on the seafloor or even by non-human technologies of unknown origin. While mainstream science dismisses such speculation, the upsweep remains one of the most persistent and puzzling acoustic phenomena in the world's oceans. Whatever generates this ghostly, ever louder sound continues its mysterious activity beneath the waves, oblivious to our curiosity. As oceanographic research has increasingly relied on unmanned submersibles to explore the deep ocean, a disturbing pattern has emerged. A significant number of these sophisticated vehicles have disappeared during routine missions, often in circumstances that defy conventional explanation. In 2014, a $5 million autonomous underwater vehicle operated by the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution vanished while mapping a deep-sea trench in the Pacific. Subsequent search efforts found no trace of the submersible, despite its being equipped with emergency locator beacons specifically designed to activate if the vehicle was lost. Similar disappearances have been reported by research institutions and navies worldwide. In many cases, the vehicles were operating well within their design parameters, in areas previously mapped and known to be free of obvious hazards. Often, telemetry data received just before communication loss showed all systems functioning normally, with no indication of impending problems. Modern underwater vehicles typically include pressure-triggered emergency ascent mechanisms that should activate automatically if the vehicle exceeds its maximum rated depth. They also carry backup power systems and multiple communication options, including acoustic beacons that can function even if main power systems fail. One theory suggests these vehicles might be encountering previously unmapped underwater currents, powerful enough to drag them beyond their operational limits. If caught in such currents, a vehicle might be carried into deeper water, where pressure could crush its hull before emergency systems could respond. Another more unsettling possibility involves interaction with large marine organisms. There have been documented cases of curious or aggressive marine animals, particularly certain shark species and giant squid, attacking underwater equipment. A sufficiently large predator might mistake a small underwater vehicle for potential prey, damaging it beyond operational capability. Analysis of lost locations shows clusters in certain geographic areas, particularly around deep-sea trenches and submarine volcanic regions. Let's now examine the mysterious world of underwater particle accelerators, natural phenomena that can accelerate subatomic particles to near light speed in the ocean depths. The resulting high-energy particle beams can extend for miles through the water column, creating detectable radiation patterns at the ocean surface. What makes underwater particle accelerators particularly fascinating is their energy efficiency. This suggests a connection to Earth's electromagnetic field, potentially involving interactions between moving seawater, which contains conductive salt ions, and the planet's magnetic field. These interactions might create the electromagnetic gradients necessary to accelerate charged particles. In 2019, oceanographers on a research vessel in the South Atlantic detected radiation levels briefly spiking to nearly 100 times background levels while passing over a deep underwater trench. The energy involved was calculated to be equivalent to that produced by a moderate-sized research accelerator, yet it occurred through entirely natural processes. Some researchers have suggested that transient radiation exposure from these events might explain certain patterns of genetic mutation observed in deep-sea creatures. Others have proposed that some marine organisms might actually sense and avoid areas prone to these events, potentially explaining certain migration patterns that have previously puzzled marine biologists. The study of underwater particle accelerators remains in its infancy, hampered by the difficulty of placing sensitive detection equipment in the extreme environments where these events most commonly occur. However, their discovery has opened new avenues of research at the intersection of oceanography, physics, and marine biology, suggesting that the deep ocean may harbor physical phenomena as yet unimagined by conventional science. Now let's explore the mysterious phenomenon of flash freezing waters, rare events where seawater suddenly crystallizes into ice in seconds rather than the hours or days typically required for freezing. These events, while uncommon, have been documented by multiple reliable sources and present a terrifying hazard to both marine life and human vessels caught in their midst. Imagine swimming in cold but liquid water one moment, only to find yourself encased in solid ice the next, with no time to escape. Flash freezing typically occurs in supercooled water, liquid water, that remains fluid despite being below its normal freezing point of 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. Under certain conditions, seawater can reach temperatures as low as 28.4 degrees Fahrenheit (-2 degrees Celsius) while remaining liquid due to its salt content and the absence of seed crystals around which ice would normally form. When such supercooled water is disturbed by a wave, current, or passing object, crystallization can propagate through the entire body of water almost instantaneously. In January 2018, residents of a coastal town in Siberia witnessed a flash freezing event when a wave of slush washed ashore and solidified within seconds, trapping fish, small boats, and even seabirds in place. The speed of the freezing left no time for escape, creating a macabre snapshot of normal activity instantly halted. What makes flash freezing particularly dangerous is its unpredictability. The supercold state that precedes these events is visually indistinguishable from normal water. This means that swimmers, small boats, or marine animals have no way to anticipate the danger until it's too late. Marine biologists have documented cases where entire schools of fish have been found frozen solid in their normal swimming formations, suggesting they were caught completely unaware by a flash freezing event. The resulting ice formations often preserve the final moments of creatures caught in mid-action, creating eerie three-dimensional snapshots of interrupted life. Some climate scientists have expressed concern that flash freezing events may become more common in certain ocean regions as climate patterns shift. Changing ocean currents can create conditions where cold, freshwater runoff from melting ice sheets flows over saltier, warmer water, creating the temperature and salinity gradients that facilitate supercooling. This raises the disturbing possibility that regions previously free from this phenomenon might begin experiencing these deadly freezing events as global climate patterns continue to change. Let's now explore one of the ocean's most visually stunning yet scientifically puzzling phenomena: underwater crop circles. First documented off the coast of Japan in 1995, these perfect circular patterns on the seafloor feature intricate geometric designs radiating from a central point, resembling the mysterious crop circles that have appeared in fields around the world. Unlike their terrestrial counterparts, however, the origin of these underwater formations has been conclusively identified, though questions about their purpose remain. In 2011, underwater photographer Yoji Okada discovered a beautiful 2-meter-wide circular pattern on the sandy seafloor near Amami, Oshima Island. The intricate design featured symmetrical ridges and valleys radiating from a central point, crafted with precision that seemed to require intelligent design. After setting up underwater cameras to monitor the site, researchers made a surprising discovery. The circles were being created by a single male pufferfish, barely a few inches long. Subsequent observation revealed that the tiny fish spends days creating these patterns, using only its fins to move sand and create the intricate ridges and valleys. The purpose, scientists discovered, was reproductive. The patterns serve as both a mating display to attract females and a nest to protect fertilized eggs. The ridges and grooves create currents that carry away debris and bring oxygen-rich water to the eggs deposited in the circle's center. What remains mysterious, however, is how such a small creature instinctively creates such mathematically precise patterns. The circles feature nearly perfect radial symmetry and consistent spacing between ridges, a level of geometric precision that seems beyond the capabilities of a fish with a brain the size of a pea. Yet no learning or practice has been observed. Even young male pufferfish seem capable of creating these complex designs on their first attempt. Even more puzzling is the fact that different pufferfish species create distinctly different pattern styles, yet all maintain the same mathematical precision. Some create simple concentric circles, others create spiral patterns, and still others create the complex radiating patterns, first discovered by Okada. This suggests that the ability is genetically programmed rather than learned, raising questions about how such complex geometric information could be encoded in DNA. The fish adjust their designs based on current strength, sand composition, and other environmental factors. This adaptive capability suggests a level of environmental awareness and problem-solving that seems incongruous with the cognitive limitations of a small fish. Some marine biologists have suggested that the behavior represents a form of embodied intelligence, complex adaptive behavior that doesn't require conscious understanding. Now let's explore the enduring mystery of the underwater walls, massive, seemingly artificial stone structures discovered in various locations around the world. Unlike natural reef formations, these structures feature straight lines, right angles, and consistent dimensions that suggest deliberate construction rather than geological processes. Yet their location, often at depths that would have been far underwater even in prehistoric times, defies conventional archaeological understanding. In 1968, divers near Bimini in the Bahamas discovered what appeared to be a paved road or wall beneath approximately 15 feet of water. The formation, now known as the Bimini Road, consists of regularly shaped limestone blocks, arranged in a linear pattern extending for over half a mile. Conventional archaeology suggests the formation is natural, composed of beach rock naturally fractured into rectangular patterns, but this explanation remains contested. More dramatic are the underwater walls discovered near Yonaguni Island, Japan, as part of the larger Yonaguni Monument Complex. These structures, lying at depths of 60 to 100 feet, include long, straight walls with consistent height and width, intersecting at precise right angles. Some sections feature what appear to be regularly spaced openings, resembling windows or doorways. Mainstream geology suggests these might be natural formations created by peculiar erosion patterns, but many researchers find this explanation insufficient given the structure's regularity. In 2001, explorers using side-scan sonar in the Bay of Cambay, off India's western coast, detected what appeared to be massive straight walls extending for several kilometers in a grid-like pattern. Subsequent investigation recovered artifacts from the site dating to approximately 9,500 years ago, a period when conventional archaeology holds that humans had not yet developed urban architecture or large-scale stone construction. The site's depth, approximately 120 feet below current sea level, indicates it would have been submerged about 9,000 years ago, as sea levels rose following the last ice age. What makes these underwater walls particularly puzzling is their scale and engineering. Many feature massive stone blocks weighing several tons precisely fitted together without mortar. The technical challenges of such construction would be formidable even with modern equipment, let alone the primitive tools supposedly available to ancient builders. Additionally, the depth and age of many of these structures would place their construction during the last ice age, when human civilization was supposedly still in its hunter-gatherer phase. Some researchers have proposed that these structures might represent evidence of advanced ancient civilizations that existed before the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower. Such civilizations might have developed along coastlines that were subsequently submerged as glaciers melted and oceans rose. This hypothesis challenges conventional archaeological timelines, which place the development of sophisticated architecture and large-scale stonework much later in human history. Let's now delve into the mystery of underwater light orbs, spherical concentrations of light occasionally observed in deep ocean environments. In 2016, a deep-sea exploration vehicle near the Mariana Trench captured footage of multiple light orbs floating at a depth of approximately 12,000 feet. The spheres, each about 2-4 inches in diameter, maintain perfect circularity while drifting slowly through the water. Unlike any known bioluminescent organism, they showed no visible structure, appearing as perfect spheres of light with sharply defined boundaries. When approached by the vehicle, they moved away in what appeared to be deliberate evasion rather than passive drift. Similar phenomena have been reported by deep-sea submersible pilots in various ocean regions, particularly near hydrothermal vent systems and deep ocean trenches. In some cases, the orbs appear to move in coordinated patterns, maintaining consistent distances from each other, as if connected by invisible forces. Some observers have reported seeing the orbs split into smaller identical spheres or merge together to form larger ones, behavior inconsistent with any known biological organism. Scientific explanations for these light orbs remain speculative. Some researchers propose they might represent a previously unknown type of colonial organism, perhaps a cluster of bioluminescent microbes held together by surface tension or some biological binding mechanism. Others suggest they could be a plasma phenomenon created by the interaction of seawater with electromagnetic fields generated by tectonic activity in these geologically active regions. What makes underwater light orbs particularly fascinating is their resemblance to atmospheric phenomena known as ball lightning, another poorly understood natural phenomenon involving self-contained spheres of light. Some physicists have suggested that both phenomena might share similar underlying mechanisms, potentially involving quantum effects that create stable energy structures under specific environmental conditions. The rarity of these observations and the extreme environments where they typically occur have hampered scientific investigation. Most encounters are brief and unexpected, allowing little time for comprehensive measurement or sampling. Until more systematic study becomes possible, these perfect spheres of light drifting through the ocean depths remain one of the many mysteries waiting to be solved beneath the waves. Now let's explore a particularly disturbing oceanic phenomenon: marine creatures washing ashore with inexplicable, perfectly circular wounds. Since the early 2000s, marine biologists have documented increasing numbers of whales, dolphins, seals, and large fish found dead on beaches worldwide with bizarre injuries, perfectly circular holes or discs of tissue completely removed from their bodies. These wounds typically show no signs of tearing or jagged edges that would be expected from predator attacks. Instead, they appear almost surgically precise, as if created by a cookie cutter removing a perfect circle of flesh and skin. The conventional explanation attributes these wounds to the cookie-cutter shark, Acystis brasiliensis, a small deep-sea shark known for its specialized feeding technique. These sharks attach to their prey using suction created by their lips, then rotate to remove a plug of flesh using their unique dental arrangement. This certainly accounts for many of the observed wounds, particularly the smaller ones measuring 1–3 inches in diameter. However, marine biologists have increasingly documented wounds that don't fit the cookie-cutter shark profile. Others show unusual characteristics, like perfectly perpendicular entry angles, cauterized edges suggesting extreme heat, or complete absence of tooth marks that would be expected from shark feeding. In 2015, researchers examining a stranded sperm whale in Australia documented a perfect circular wound, nearly 12 inches in diameter, that penetrated over 18 inches into the whale's body. Most puzzling was the complete absence of blood residue in or around the wound, despite its size and depth. Similar cases have been documented across the globe, often clustered in specific geographic regions for periods of months before ceasing entirely. This pattern has led some researchers to suggest the wounds might be related to human activity rather than natural predation, perhaps caused by underwater equipment, research sampling, or even military testing. However, the remoteness of many cases and the lack of correlation with known human activities in those areas leaves this explanation incomplete. Some marine biologists have proposed more exotic explanations, suggesting the wounds might be caused by previously undocumented deep-sea predators or parasites with specialized feeding mechanisms. For now, the perfect circular wounds remain partially explained at best, with the largest and most precisely formed examples continuing to puzzle marine biologists and veterinary pathologists alike. Whatever creates these precise excisions does so with a level of consistency and geometric precision rarely seen in natural biological interactions. Let's now explore the mysterious phenomenon of blue holes, massive underwater sinkholes that appear as perfectly circular deep blue patches in otherwise shallow tropical waters. These geological features can plunge hundreds of feet into the seafloor, creating vertical underwater caves that harbor unique ecosystems and, in many cases, hidden chambers filled with secrets of the ancient past. The most famous blue hole is the Great Blue Hole off the coast of Belize, a perfect circle of deep blue approximately 1,000 feet across and 400 feet deep. While science explains their formation through the collapse of ancient cave systems during periods of lower sea levels, their geometric precision remains striking. Blue holes often contain distinct layers of water with dramatically different properties. The upper portions typically contain normal, oxygen-rich seawater, but deeper layers frequently become anoxic, oxygen-depleted, and highly acidic. This creates a sharp boundary where few organisms can survive, creating an underwater barrier between the surface world and the alien environment below. Below this boundary, researchers have discovered microbial communities that exist nowhere else on Earth, thriving in conditions that would be lethal to most life forms. Some of these microorganisms use chemical processes completely different from conventional oxygen-based metabolism, essentially representing alternative evolutionary pathways. What makes blue holes particularly valuable to scientists is their role as time capsules preserving evidence of Earth's past. The anoxic conditions at their depths prevent normal decomposition, allowing organic materials to remain preserved for thousands of years. Researchers have recovered perfectly preserved animal remains, ancient pollen samples, and even human artifacts from these underwater caves, providing unprecedented insights into prehistoric environments and civilizations. In 2020, divers exploring a blue hole off the coast of Florida discovered human remains dating back over 7,000 years, along with remarkably preserved wooden artifacts that would have long since decomposed in normal marine conditions. Perhaps most unsettling are the reports from technical divers who have ventured into the deepest portions of these formations. Many describe experiencing unusual psychological effects, including time distortion, spatial disorientation, and vivid hallucinations. These effects are typically attributed to nitrogen narcosis, a well-known physiological response to breathing compressed air at depth. However, some experienced divers report these effects occurring in blue holes at shallower depths than would normally produce narcosis, suggesting some other factor might be involved. Some blue holes contain what appear to be artificial structures or modifications that don't align with natural formation processes. Divers exploring the Temple of Doom blue hole in the Bahamas have documented what appear to be worked stone surfaces and geometric patterns inconsistent with natural erosion or collapse. Similar features have been reported in blue holes off the Yucatan Peninsula, often in locations that would have been above sea level during the last ice age, when these caves were dry. This has led to the discovery of numerous previously unknown species, particularly among invertebrates and microbial life forms. Some of these organisms possess biochemical capabilities that scientists are studying for potential medical and industrial applications, including compounds with antibiotic properties and enzymes capable of functioning in extreme environmental conditions. In 2018, researchers discovered that certain blue holes appear to breathe, experiencing regular fluctuations in water level that don't correspond to normal tidal patterns. Some blue holes seem to connect to vast underwater cave networks, extending miles beyond their visible openings, creating submerged labyrinths that have claimed the lives of numerous explorers over the years. Now let's explore the mysterious phenomenon of singing sands, underwater sand formations that produce eerie, musical tones under specific conditions. Unlike the better-known singing or booming sands found in certain deserts, underwater singing sands require particular combinations of grain size, mineral composition, water temperature, and current flow to produce their haunting sounds. When conditions align perfectly, these submarine sandbeds can generate sustained tones resembling human moaning or distant musical instruments, audible to divers and sometimes even to people in boats on the surface. Subsequent investigation revealed the source to be a massive sand formation on the seafloor, approximately 200 feet below the surface. Under certain tidal conditions, this formation produced complex, harmonically related tones that persisted for hours before gradually fading as water conditions changed. Similar singing sands have since been discovered in several locations worldwide, including areas off the coasts of Australia, Cuba, and Scotland. Each location produces its own distinctive sound signature, ranging from deep, organ-like tones to high, keening wails that sailors have historically attributed to mermaids or the ghosts of drowned sailors. Historical maritime records suggest that these sounds have been encountered by sailors for centuries, often becoming incorporated into local folklore and superstitions. What makes underwater singing sands particularly mysterious is the complexity of the sounds they produce. Unlike most natural acoustic phenomena, which typically generate simple tones or random noise, singing sands can produce sequences of changing notes that sometimes follow recognizable patterns. Some recordings reveal what sound remarkably like musical phrases that repeat with subtle variations, a level of organization that seems to transcend simple physical processes. The current scientific explanation involves resonance between sand grains as water flows through them, creating vibrations that are amplified by the surrounding water column. Changes in tide, current, or water temperature can alter these resonance patterns, effectively tuning the sand beds to produce different notes or tonal qualities. However, this explanation doesn't fully account for the complex patterns and apparent organization observed in some recordings, leaving aspects of the phenomenon still unexplained. In 2016, marine biologists made an intriguing discovery while studying fish behavior near a singing sand formation off the coast of Australia. They observed that certain species appeared to coordinate their movements and behaviors in response to the sounds, suggesting they might use these acoustic features as navigational aids or timing signals for activities like spawning. This raises the possibility that singing sands might play previously unrecognized roles in marine ecosystems, perhaps even influencing evolutionary adaptations in species that have long coexisted with these acoustic phenomena. Let's now explore the enduring mystery of ghost nets, abandoned fishing gear that continues to drift through the oceans, trapping and killing marine life for decades after being lost or discarded. Unlike most ocean pollution, which gradually breaks down over time, modern fishing nets made from synthetic materials can persist for centuries, creating deadly underwater traps that continue fishing without human intervention. These phantom predators are estimated to account for approximately 10% of all marine debris, yet they may be responsible for a much larger percentage of direct harm to marine life. What makes ghost nets particularly insidious is their design efficiency. Modern fishing nets are engineered specifically to ensnare marine creatures as effectively as possible, with features that make escape difficult or impossible. Some recovered ghost nets have been found to contain the remains of hundreds of marine animals, from small fish to dolphins, sea turtles, and even whales. An abandoned net catches fish, which die and decompose, attracting scavengers who themselves become entangled. These scavengers then die, attracting more creatures to the same fate. This cycle can continue for years or even decades, with a single ghost net potentially killing thousands of marine animals over its lifetime. Perhaps most disturbing is the mobility of ghost nets. Unlike stationary debris, ghost nets drift with ocean currents, sometimes traveling thousands of miles from their point of origin. This mobility means they can impact multiple ecosystems, potentially introducing entangled invasive species to new environments or transporting pollutants across ocean basins. Some ghost nets have been tracked drifting from commercial fishing grounds in the North Pacific to remote coral atolls over 4,000 miles away, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. In 2018, divers encountered a ghost net in the Caribbean that contained the remains of over 300 individual animals representing 23 different species. Disturbingly, the net showed signs of having been deliberately cut, suggesting it had been intentionally abandoned rather than accidentally lost. The cumulative impact of ghost nets globally remains difficult to quantify precisely, but conservative estimates suggest that hundreds of thousands of marine animals die in abandoned fishing gear each year. Some oceanographers have described ghost nets as the most significant gear-related marine debris issue globally, a silent, invisible killer continuing to harvest the oceans long after humans have abandoned them. Recovery efforts face enormous challenges due to the vast areas involved and the difficulty of tracking these nearly invisible killers as they drift through the world's oceans. Now let's explore the mysterious phenomenon of volcanic bubbles, massive underwater gas bubbles formed by submarine volcanic activity that can rise through the water column with potentially catastrophic consequences. Unlike typical gas bubbles, which quickly dissolve or disperse in water, volcanic bubbles can contain gases like carbon dioxide or methane that remain stable under pressure, allowing them to maintain their integrity while rising thousands of feet toward the surface. As these bubbles ascend and expand, they can reach diameters of hundreds of feet, creating vast, rising voids in the water column. What makes volcanic bubbles particularly dangerous is their effect on water density and buoyancy. Water mixed with large amounts of gas bubbles becomes significantly less dense, potentially to the point where it can no longer support the weight of vessels floating on the surface. When such a bubble reaches the surface, ships directly above can suddenly lose buoyancy and sink before crews have any time to react. This phenomenon has been proposed as a possible explanation for some mysterious ship disappearances, particularly in areas of known underwater volcanic activity. In 2015, oceanographers documented a massive gas bubble release near an underwater volcano in the Pacific. Using sonar imaging, they tracked a bubble nearly 300 feet in diameter as it rose from a depth of approximately 2,000 feet. The bubble expanded as it ascended due to decreasing water pressure, ultimately reaching a diameter of over 1,000 feet before breaking the surface. Had a vessel been directly above when this bubble surfaced, it would almost certainly have sunk instantly as the water beneath it was displaced by gas. Geological records suggest that underwater landslides, or tectonic activity, can rupture sealed pockets of gas that have accumulated over centuries or millennia, releasing enormous bubbles capable of affecting areas of ocean surface, measuring miles across. Some researchers have proposed that these events might explain historical accounts of ships disappearing suddenly in calm seas, with no distress calls or survivors. The Lake Ness disaster of 1986, while occurring in a freshwater lake rather than the ocean, demonstrates the potential deadliness of large gas releases. In that incident, a natural carbon dioxide release from the lake bed caused the asphyxiation of approximately 1,700 people and thousands of animals in nearby villages. While the specific mechanism differed from oceanic volcanic bubbles, the event highlighted the potential lethality of sudden gas releases from underwater sources. Similar but larger events in oceanic environments could potentially affect much wider areas, with even more devastating consequences. In 2012, researchers using satellite imagery identified what appeared to be massive gas releases in the Arctic Ocean, potentially related to methane hydrate destabilization due to warming waters. These events created surface disturbances visible from space, with some covering areas of several square miles. While no vessels were reported lost in these specific incidents, they demonstrated that large-scale gas releases occur more frequently and at larger scales than previously recognized. The potential for such events to occur without warning in heavily trafficked shipping lanes remains a concerning possibility. Now let's delve into the mystery of the Porra Roca, a tidal bore phenomenon that occurs in the Amazon River and represents one of the most powerful and dangerous tidal events on the planet. Unlike typical ocean waves, which form through wind action, the Porra Roca is created when the Atlantic Ocean's tide pushes against the outflow of the Amazon River, creating a wall of water that travels upstream for hundreds of miles. This wave can reach heights of up to 12 feet, traveling at speeds of 15 miles per hour and producing a roaring sound that gives the phenomenon its name. Porra Roca means great destructive noise in the indigenous Tupi language. What makes the Porra Roca particularly mysterious is its unpredictability. While its general timing follows lunar cycles, its specific characteristics, height, speed, and destructive power vary dramatically from month to month and year to year. Some Pororoca events are relatively mild, while others generate waves powerful enough to uproot trees, destroy riverside structures, and dramatically alter the river's shoreline in a single passage. Local inhabitants have developed traditional methods for predicting particularly dangerous Pororoca events, often based on subtle environmental cues that modern science has yet to fully understand. The Pororoca carries another deadly characteristic. It sweeps the river clean of everything in its path, creating what locals call the head of the boar. The resulting debris wall can weigh thousands of tons and moves with enough force to crush boats or sweep away entire sections of riverbank. Indigenous communities along the Amazon have developed specific warning systems to alert residents when a Pororoca is approaching, as the wave can arrive with little visible warning from upstream. Particularly puzzling to scientists is the Pororoca's acoustic signature, a deep, thunderous roar that can be heard up to 30 minutes before the wave becomes visible. Some researchers suggest it might result from complex interactions between the wave and the unique sediment composition of the Amazon River, creating resonant frequencies that amplify the sound to unusual levels. Others propose that the sound may involve infrasonic components below human hearing range, that nevertheless create physical sensations interpreted as sound. Microorganisms in the river water, stimulated by the extreme turbulence and pressure changes, produced a visible blue-green glow along the wave crest. This created the eerie spectacle of a glowing wall of water moving upstream through the darkness, accompanied by its characteristic thunderous roar. Local folklore has long described demon lights associated with the most powerful Pororoca events, suggesting this bioluminescent activation may have occurred throughout history. The Pororoca represents just one example of tidal bores, which occur in approximately 60 river systems worldwide. However, the Amazon's version is by far the most powerful and extends the farthest upstream, sometimes traveling more than 500 miles inland from the Atlantic Ocean. As climate change alters sea levels and river flow patterns, some models predict that the Pororoca may become even more powerful and unpredictable in coming decades, potentially reaching areas of the Amazon basin that have never previously experienced this phenomenon. What this might mean for riverside ecosystems and human settlements remains an open question. Let's now explore the mysterious disappearance of the SS Waratah, sometimes called Australia's Titanic, a modern passenger liner that vanished without a trace in 1909 with 211 people aboard. The Waratah was a luxurious steamship operating between Europe and Australia, equipped with the latest safety features of its time, including watertight compartments similar to those later used in the Titanic. It was sighted by another vessel, the Clan McIntyre, later that same day, the last confirmed sighting of the Waratah, before it vanished completely. What makes the Waratah's disappearance particularly baffling is the complete absence of debris, bodies, or any physical evidence of the ship's fate. Despite one of the most extensive maritime searches of its time, not so much as a life jacket or piece of wreckage was ever found. The ship effectively sailed into oblivion, taking with it every one of its passengers and crew members. No distress signal was ever received, suggesting whatever befell the vessel occurred with such rapidity that there was no time to call for help. Sawyer reported that during the voyage from Australia, he had observed the Waratah exhibiting unusual stability characteristics, rolling heavily even in moderate seas. He became so concerned that he left the ship at Durban, telling fellow passengers and crew about his premonitions of disaster. When news of the Waratah's disappearance became public, Sawyer's account transformed him into a reluctant celebrity, with many viewing his decision to leave the ship as evidence of supernatural foresight. The Waratah's disappearance occurred in an area off the South African coast, known as the Wild Coast, notorious for its massive rogue waves, powerful currents, and violent storms. Some theories suggest the ship may have been struck by a rogue wave large enough to capsize it instantly, explaining the absence of distress calls or survivors. Others propose that structural issues, possibly related to the stability concerns noted by Sawyer, may have caused the vessel to roll over in heavy seas. Still others suggest a catastrophic boiler explosion that could have sunk the ship rapidly, though this would likely have left some floating debris. Over the decades since the disappearance, numerous expeditions have searched for the Waratah's wreckage, using increasingly sophisticated technology. In 1999, a researcher claimed to have located the wreck using side-scan sonar, but subsequent investigation revealed the object to be a previously documented World War II casualty. In 2004, another expedition identified a large object on the seafloor that initially seemed promising, but deeper analysis indicated geological rather than man-made origins. Local legends speak of a phantom ship that appears during storms, visible for brief moments before vanishing into the mist. While such accounts are easily dismissed as superstition, they speak to the powerful hold that unexplained maritime disappearances have on human imagination. That a modern steel vessel carrying hundreds of people could simply vanish without trace challenges our perception of human mastery over the ocean environment. Let's now explore the enigmatic legend of the Flying Dutchman, perhaps the most famous ghost ship in maritime folklore, and one that continues to be reported by modern sailors. According to the classic legend, the Flying Dutchman was a Dutch merchant vessel captained by a man named Hendrik van der Decken, who attempted to round the Cape of Good Hope during a terrible storm in the 17th century. When his crew begged him to turn back in the face of the storm's fury, the captain allegedly cursed God, vowing to round the Cape, even if it took until Judgment Day. For this blasphemy, the ship and its crew were condemned to sail the seas forever, never making port, serving as a warning to others who might challenge the power of nature or the divine. What transforms this tale from mere folklore to enduring mystery is the persistence of reported sightings across centuries and into modern times. The Flying Dutchman is typically described as a sailing ship, glowing with an unnatural light, sometimes appearing to sail above the water rather than on it. It allegedly appears during or just before severe storms, visible for a brief period before vanishing. Naval records from the 18th and 19th centuries contain numerous official reports of Flying Dutchman sightings made by experienced captains and officers whose professional reputations depended on their reliability. One of the most famous documented sightings occurred in 1881 aboard HMS Bacchante, witnessed by the future King George V of England, who was then a naval cadet. The royal log recorded that a strange red light, as of a phantom ship all aglow, in the midst of which light the masts, spars, and sails of a brig stood out in strong relief. This sighting was corroborated by multiple crew members, including experienced officers, and the log notes that the sailor who first spotted the phantom ship died in a fall from the rigging later that same day, fueling beliefs that sighting the Flying Dutchman portends disaster. During World War II, multiple German U-boat crews reported encountering a glowing sailing ship in the Atlantic that appeared suddenly in clear weather, vanished from radar detection, and disappeared when approached. Similar accounts came from Allied vessels operating in the South Pacific. In many cases, these sightings preceded violent storms or enemy attacks, reinforcing the legend of the Dutchman as a harbinger of doom. What makes these modern accounts particularly compelling is that they often came from military personnel operating sophisticated equipment and trained to make accurate observations. Scientific explanations for Flying Dutchman sightings typically involve optical phenomena such as fata morgana, a complex form of mirage that can project images of distant objects, sometimes making them appear to float above the horizon. These mirages can be particularly vivid in certain atmospheric conditions found near the Cape of Good Hope and other locations associated with Dutchman sightings. Other researchers suggest bioluminescent phenomena, phosphorescent plankton, or St. Elmo's fire. Electrical discharges during storms might account for the glowing appearance frequently described in sighting reports. Yet these explanations don't fully account for the specific details consistently reported across centuries. The clear appearance of a 17th century sailing vessel with particular features, visible masts and sails, and crew members sometimes seen moving about the deck. Now let's explore the mysterious world of underwater magnetism, anomalous magnetic fields that defy conventional geological explanation. The Earth's magnetic field naturally varies slightly from location to location due to differences in the underlying geology, particularly the presence of iron-rich minerals. However, oceanographers have identified numerous locations where magnetic readings deviate dramatically from what would be expected based on known geological features. These anomalies can cause compass needles to spin wildly, interfere with sensitive electronic equipment, and potentially disrupt animal navigation systems that rely on magnetic sensing. Perhaps the most famous of these anomalies occurs within the Bermuda Triangle, where pilots and ship captains have reported compass malfunctions for decades. In some locations within this region, magnetic north appears to deviate by as much as 20 degrees from true magnetic north, with the deviation itself fluctuating unpredictably over short time periods. While natural variations in Earth's magnetic field typically change very gradually, these anomalies can appear, intensify, and disappear within hours or even minutes, defying conventional geological understanding. In 2017, researchers mapping the seafloor near the Mid-Atlantic Ridge discovered a pattern of magnetic anomalies so perfectly circular that they initially suspected equipment malfunction. Subsequent investigation confirmed that these perfect circles of magnetic deviation, each approximately 3 miles in diameter, were genuine features rather than measurement errors. Their geometric precision and arrangement in a straight line extending for over 30 miles suggested an organized pattern inconsistent with known natural processes. Yet their location, nearly 2 miles below the ocean surface, in an area with no evidence of human activity, makes artificial origin equally difficult to explain. Some marine biologists have proposed biological contributions to magnetic anomalies, noting that certain bacteria can create chains of magnetite crystals that effectively function as tiny compass needles. In sufficient numbers, these magnetactic bacteria could potentially generate detectable magnetic fields. However, the scale and intensity of observed ocean magnetic anomalies far exceed what known bacterial populations could produce, leaving this explanation incomplete at best. These have been documented by research vessels in the South Pacific and parts of the Indian Ocean, creating what one scientist described as magnetic whirlpools that can cause compass needles to rotate continuously rather than pointing in any fixed direction. Others seem to drift slowly across the ocean floor, maintaining their internal structure while changing location over periods of weeks or months. The potential impact of these magnetic anomalies on marine life remains poorly understood. Many marine species, from bacteria to whales, possess magnetoreception capabilities that they use for navigation, feeding, and other essential functions. Dramatic disruptions to the magnetic environment could potentially disorient these creatures, possibly explaining some instances of mass strandings or unusual migration patterns. Some researchers have suggested that large-scale magnetic anomalies might effectively create invisible barriers that certain magnetically sensitive species instinctively avoid, potentially influencing ocean ecosystem boundaries in ways we're only beginning to recognize. Let's now examine the perplexing mystery of underwater spiral structures, massive geometric formations discovered on the ocean floor that resemble perfect spirals drawn with precision. Unlike random or irregular natural formations, these spirals feature mathematical properties like consistent spacing between arms and precise logarithmic expansion that suggest deliberate design rather than natural processes. Yet their location, size, and apparent age often make human origin seem implausible, creating a genuine scientific puzzle. In 2008, divers near Okinawa, Japan, discovered an underwater spiral pattern approximately 80 feet in diameter, created from carefully arranged stones on the sandy seafloor. Attempts to date the structure suggested it might be several thousand years old, a period when the site would have been underwater and local civilizations supposedly lacked the technology to create such massive submarine structures. Even more puzzling was a spiral formation discovered by marine geologists in the Baltic Sea in 2011. This structure, approximately 300 feet in diameter, appeared on sonar scans as a perfect logarithmic spiral, a mathematical pattern found in certain shells and biological structures. However, the Baltic spiral appeared to be carved into solid bedrock rather than constructed from individual elements, with precisely measured grooves approximately 2 feet deep and 5 feet wide. In 2019, researchers using advanced sonar to map the Gulf of Mexico discovered multiple spiral patterns on the seafloor, arranged in what appeared to be a deliberate sequence. What made these particularly puzzling was their uniformity. Each spiral contained exactly 6.5 rotations, with identical spacing between spiral arms. Some researchers have proposed that underwater spirals might be created by currents interacting with seafloor sediments, similar to how wind can create spiral patterns in desert sand. Others have suggested biological origins, pointing to certain marine organisms that create circular or spiral structures as part of their feeding or reproductive activities. Yet known examples of such biological construction occur at much smaller scales than the massive formations that have been discovered. The mathematical properties of these spirals have attracted particular scientific interest. Many exhibit the golden ratio, or Fibonacci sequence, mathematical patterns that occur in various natural phenomena, but rarely with the precision observed in these underwater structures. Some display exact logarithmic properties that match theoretical perfect spirals with greater accuracy than even the most precise natural examples like nautilus shells. This mathematical perfection deepens the mystery of their origin, suggesting either an unknown natural process with remarkable mathematical properties or deliberate construction using advanced mathematical knowledge. Now let's explore the mysterious microbial mats that thrive in some of the most extreme environments on Earth, the sulfur springs and hydrothermal vents of the deep ocean. These living carpets can extend for miles across the seafloor, creating vast ecosystems that operate on chemical principles fundamentally different from those that power life on the surface. Instead of sunlight, these organisms derive energy from chemicals like hydrogen sulfide that would be lethal to most surface-dwelling creatures, essentially representing an alternative evolutionary path for life on Earth. What makes these microbial mats particularly fascinating is their age and stability. Some deep-sea mats appear to have existed continuously for thousands or even millions of years, creating what may be the most ancient and stable ecosystems on the planet. Individual microbial colonies within these mats can potentially live for extraordinary periods. Some researchers suggest certain deep-sea bacterial colonies may be effectively immortal, continuing to grow and divide without experiencing cellular aging or death, as long as environmental conditions remain stable. The metabolic capabilities of these microbial communities challenge our understanding of what's biologically possible. Some can survive in water hot enough to boil at surface pressure, while others thrive in highly acidic environments that would dissolve conventional cellular structures. Certain mat-forming bacteria can metabolize compounds previously thought biologically inert, including normally toxic heavy metals and even certain plastics. This metabolic diversity represents a vast, largely untapped reservoir of biochemical capabilities with potential applications ranging from environmental remediation to pharmaceutical development. Perhaps most unsettling is the alien nature of these ecosystems compared to familiar life forms. The microbes that form these mats often bear little resemblance to surface-dwelling bacteria, with some possessing unique cellular structures and genetic material, unlike anything found elsewhere on Earth. Some researchers have suggested that deep-sea microbial communities might represent an entirely separate origin of life, potentially evolving independently from surface life forms for billions of years. Others propose they might preserve biological features from Earth's earliest life forms, essentially serving as living fossils from the planet's distant past. In 2018, researchers exploring hydrothermal vents in the Pacific discovered microbial mats containing organisms with a previously unknown method of DNA organization. Unlike all other known life forms, which use DNA with a right-handed spiral structure, these organisms contain sections of left-handed DNA integrated into their genomes. Such discoveries continue to expand our understanding of what's biologically possible and raise profound questions about the potential diversity of life forms that might exist elsewhere in the universe. The microbial mats also exhibit behaviors that seem almost intelligent despite their simple individual components. Some form complex patterns that change in response to environmental conditions, creating what appear to be coordinated responses to threats or opportunities. Others generate electrical currents that flow through the mat structure, potentially serving as a primitive communication network that allows information to travel between distant parts of the colony. These emergent behaviors, arising from simple organisms without brains or nervous systems, challenge our understanding of what constitutes intelligence and decision-making in biological systems. Let's now delve into the bizarre phenomenon of underwater crop circles that are far more complex than the pufferfish circles we discussed earlier. While the pufferfish circles have been explained, other underwater geometric patterns remain mysterious. In 2013, divers near the island of Vanuatu in the South Pacific discovered a series of interconnected circles on the seafloor, forming a pattern resembling a complex Celtic knot. The formation, approximately 100 feet in diameter, featured perfectly symmetrical elements and precise geometric relationships that seemed to defy natural explanation. Unlike the pufferfish circles, which are created in sandy substrates, these formations were etched into solid coral reef surfaces, with grooves approximately 6 inches deep. Marine biologists examining the site found no evidence of known fish or invertebrate species capable of creating such precise and extensive patterns. The precision and scale of the pattern would have required considerable time and effort to produce, making unnoticed human origin seem implausible. Even more puzzling was the discovery that the pattern incorporated astronomical alignments. Certain elements of the design pointed precisely toward the sunrise position on the solstices and equinoxes, when viewed from the center of the formation. These alignments were accurate to within 1 degree, a level of precision that would require sophisticated surveying techniques to achieve, especially underwater, where visibility is limited. Yet the remote location and depth, approximately 80 feet below the surface, made such precise human craftsmanship extremely unlikely. In 2016, similar but distinct patterns were discovered near underwater volcanic vents off the coast of New Zealand. These formations featured concentric circles connected by straight lines, creating what researchers described as circuit-like patterns, extending over approximately 300 feet of seafloor. The lines maintained perfect straightness despite crossing varied terrain, including rocks, sand, and coral outcroppings. Particularly puzzling was the observation that these patterns appear to change slightly over time, with subtle modifications appearing between survey visits separated by several months. Some researchers have suggested these formations might result from previously unknown interactions between volcanic activity and electromagnetic fields generated by undersea geological features. Others propose they could represent a form of microbial colonization pattern, with certain bacteria creating visible tracks as they spread across the seafloor in response to chemical or thermal gradients. However, the geometric precision and apparent intentionality of the patterns have led some scientists to acknowledge that current theories remain inadequate to fully explain these mysterious underwater artworks. The discovery of similar patterns in widely separated geographic locations suggests either a common natural process at work or potentially a common origin of artificial creation. Yet the depth, remoteness, and relatively recent appearance of these formations complicates both natural and human origin theories. Now let's explore the strange phenomenon of underwater whispers, unexplained sounds recorded in the deep ocean that resemble hushed human voices, speaking unknown languages. Unlike the mechanical or biological sounds typically recorded in marine environments, these whispers feature rhythmic patterns, tonal variations, and structural elements similar to human speech. They typically occur in sequences lasting from several seconds to several minutes, often with apparent call and response patterns suggesting communication between multiple sources. The phenomenon was first documented in 1997, when hydrophones placed in the Mariana Trench recorded what researchers initially classified as biological sounds of unknown origin. Closer analysis revealed speech-like characteristics including phonemic structures, consistent patterns similar to words or phrases that repeated with slight variations, and rhythmic cadences resembling conversation. Despite extensive comparison with known marine mammal vocalizations and fish sounds, no match could be established with any documented species. The depth at which the recordings were made, over 30,000 feet, eliminated most potential biological sources, as few complex organisms can survive the crushing pressure at such depths. Similar recordings have since been obtained from deep ocean environments in the Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic oceans, suggesting a widespread phenomenon rather than a localized anomaly. In each case, the sounds share certain characteristics. They typically occur in the frequency range of 70 to 120 Hz. The lower range of human speech feature apparent grammatical structures with distinct words separated by brief pauses, and often include tonal variations similar to the emotional inflections in human speech. What makes these recordings particularly unsettling is their emotional quality. Many contain elements that human listeners consistently identify as conveying urgency, distress, or questioning, despite the content being unintelligible. Conventional scientific explanations have focused on potential geological sources, suggesting the sounds might result from gas escaping through seafloor vents or subtle movements of tectonic plates. Other researchers have proposed unknown biological sources, perhaps deep-dwelling organisms that have evolved sophisticated communication systems in the darkness of the ocean depths. Yet no known marine species produces vocalizations with the complexity and linguistic structure apparent in these recordings. In 2018, researchers conducting a deep-sea expedition in the South Pacific recorded particularly clear examples of the phenomenon while their submersible was positioned near an abyssal plain at a depth of approximately 16,000 feet. The sounds appeared to respond to the submersible's movements and lighting changes, with the pattern and intensity of the whispers altering when the vessel's external lights were activated or deactivated. This apparent reactivity suggested either biological awareness of the submersible's presence or some unknown interaction between the vessel's electromagnetic fields and geological features capable of generating sounds. Analysis of these recordings using artificial intelligence algorithms designed to identify language patterns yielded surprising results. The AI system consistently categorized the sounds as language-like rather than random noise, identifying repeated elements similar to words and phrase structures analogous to sentences. While this doesn't confirm the sounds represent actual language, it does suggest they contain organizational principles and information content beyond what would be expected from random geological or simple biological processes. For now, the source and meaning of these haunting underwater whispers remain one of the deep ocean's most unsettling acoustic mysteries. Let's now explore the enigmatic fate of the UB-85, a German submarine from World War I that became associated with one of the strangest claims in naval history. The UB-85 was a Type UB-3 U-boat that disappeared during patrol in April 1918, only to be found floating on the surface by the British patrol boat HMS Coreopsis. Contrary to standard naval procedure, the German crew abandoned their vessel without attempting to scuttle it, surrendering without resistance to British forces. What makes this case remarkable is the explanation allegedly given by the U-boat's captain, Günther Kreck, during his interrogation. According to accounts that emerged after the war, Captain Kreck claimed his submarine had been attacked by a massive sea creature while surfaced at night to recharge batteries. He described a beast with large eyes set in a horny sort of skull and a small head, but with teeth that could be seen glistening in the moonlight. The U-boat, unable to submerge due to the damage, was thus forced to remain on the surface where it was captured by British forces. Official British Admiralty records confirm the capture of UB-85 and note that the submarine was found on the surface with its crew readily surrendering. However, these records contain no mention of Captain Crutch's sea monster story, and the interrogation transcripts that might confirm or refute the account have never been located. This has led many historians to dismiss the story as a colorful fabrication that emerged in the post-war years, perhaps as sailors' folklore or deliberate sensationalism. Others, however, note that official records of unusual encounters were sometimes deliberately omitted from formal reports, particularly when they might reflect poorly on the psychological stability of military personnel. In 2016, the wreck of UB-85 was finally located by sonar off the coast of Scotland during a survey for a power cable route. Examination of the wreckage revealed damage to the conning tower and forward deck consistent with the account attributed to Captain Crutch. However, marine archaeologists pointed out that such damage could easily result from depth charge attacks or collision with surface vessels, common hazards for submarines in wartime. The wreck itself provided no definitive evidence, either supporting or refuting the sea monster account. What makes this case particularly intriguing is that it occurred in waters with a long history of reported encounters with large, unidentified marine creatures. The North Channel between Scotland and Ireland, where UB-85 was captured, has produced numerous sightings of unusual marine animals dating back centuries. Some cryptozoologists have suggested that Crutch's description matches aspects of plesiosaur anatomy, an ancient marine reptile officially extinct for 65 million years, but occasionally proposed as an explanation for sea monster sightings. Others point out similarities between the described creature and known deep-sea organisms like giant squid, which can reach lengths exceeding 40 feet and might appear truly monstrous when encountered unexpectedly on a dark ocean surface. Whether the UB-85 incident represents an actual encounter with an unknown marine creature, a misidentification of a known animal under stressful conditions, or simply a colorful embellishment to a routine wartime capture, it has secured its place in the annals of maritime mysteries. The case illustrates how the vast and often frightening ocean environment can blur the line between documented history and maritime legend, leaving us to wonder what truths might lie beneath the waves of conventional explanation. Now let's examine the mystery of oceanic megalodons, the question of whether Earth's most fearsome prehistoric shark might have survived into the modern era. Officially extinct for approximately 3.6 million years, megalodons were the largest predatory sharks ever to exist, reaching lengths of up to 60 feet with jaws powerful enough to crush the bones of whales. While conventional science firmly maintains that these monsters died out long ago, reports of enormous shark-like creatures with dimensions far exceeding known living species continue to emerge from various ocean regions. In 1918, Australian naturalist David Stead recorded the testimony of several professional fishermen who claimed to have encountered an immense shark in the vicinity of Broughton Island. According to these witnesses, the creature was at least 115 feet long with a head at least 10 to 12 feet wide, dimensions far exceeding those of any documented shark species, living or extinct. What made Stead's account particularly noteworthy was that it came from multiple experienced fishermen who had abandoned lucrative fishing grounds after the encounter, despite significant economic loss. These were not individuals prone to flights of fancy or unfamiliar with large marine life. In 1960, the captain and crew of the fishing vessel Tacoma claimed to have seen a white shark, they estimated at between 100 and 115 feet long, off the coast of South Australia. The sighting occurred in daylight under good visibility conditions, allowing multiple crew members to observe the animal for several minutes as it paced alongside their vessel before disappearing into deeper water. The captain, an experienced commercial fisherman familiar with normal white sharks, was so disturbed by the encounter that he submitted a formal report to Australian authorities, expressing concern for the safety of smaller vessels in the area. In 2012, a research submersible operating at a depth of approximately 3,000 feet near the Bahamas reported a brief encounter with what the pilot described as a shark of exceptional size far larger than any great white. The encounter was too brief for photo documentation, but the pilot, an experienced marine biologist with hundreds of submersible dives, estimated the creature's length at approximately 50 feet, with proportions consistent with mackerel sharks rather than the larger but less predatory whale sharks or basking sharks. While these accounts are dismissed by mainstream science as misidentifications or exaggerations, some marine biologists have noted that the deep ocean could potentially harbor isolated populations of prehistoric survivors. The recent discoveries of several living fossil species, including the coelacanth and frilled shark, demonstrate that creatures once thought extinct for millions of years can sometimes survive in isolated ecological niches. The vast depths of our oceans, still largely unexplored, provide ample space for even very large creatures to remain undiscovered. Until the development of sonar in the mid-20th century, giant squid were considered mythological, despite occasional specimens washing ashore. The megamouth shark, which can reach lengths of 18 feet, remained entirely unknown to science until 1976, while the massive whale shark was not scientifically documented until 1828. These relatively recent discoveries of enormous marine species suggest that our census of large ocean predators may remain incomplete, leaving open the possibility, however remote, that the ocean's greatest prehistoric predator might still patrol the depths. Let's now delve into the mysterious world of marine cryptids beyond the megalodon, reported creatures that don't match any known species in scientific taxonomy. Throughout history, sailors and coastal inhabitants worldwide have reported encounters with marine animals that defy conventional zoological classification. While many such reports can be attributed to misidentification of known species or exaggeration of actual encounters, the consistency of certain descriptions across different cultures and time periods has led some researchers to consider the possibility that unclassified marine species might indeed exist, particularly in the vast and largely unexplored deep ocean. One of the most consistently reported marine cryptids is the Cadborosaurus, or caddy, named for its frequent sightings in Cadboro Bay near Victoria, British Columbia. What makes the Cadborosaurus particularly interesting to cryptozoologists is the consistency of descriptions across decades and from witnesses with no knowledge of previous reports. In 1937, a small specimen allegedly resembling the described creature was found in the stomach of a sperm whale processed at a whaling station in British Columbia, though the specimen was discarded before formal scientific examination could occur. Similarly persistent are reports of sea serpents from various ocean regions, typically described as having long, undulating bodies with multiple humps visible above the water surface. While many such sightings likely represent misidentifications of known phenomena, such as oarfish, lines of porpoises, or even floating seaweed, some reports include details difficult to reconcile with known species. These include descriptions of vertical undulation, up and down movement, rather than the horizontal undulation typical of fish and eels, consistent reports of hair or fur-like coverings, unlike any known marine reptile or fish, and observations of four-flippered swimming motions reminiscent of extinct plesiosaurs. In 2006, Japanese researchers captured brief video footage of what appeared to be a large unidentified marine animal off the coast of Okinawa. The creature, estimated at 30–50 feet long based on comparison with nearby structures, exhibited movement patterns inconsistent with known large marine species. Analysis of the footage by marine biologists could not conclusively identify the animal, with some suggesting it might represent an unusually large oarfish, or perhaps a previously undocumented deep-sea species that had ventured into shallower waters. The poor quality of the footage prevented definitive identification, leaving the creature's taxonomy uncertain. Perhaps most intriguing are reports of marine cryptids that combine mammalian and fish-like characteristics in ways that don't align with known evolutionary pathways. The Steller's sea ape, reported by naturalist Georg Wilhelm Steller during Vitus Bering's 1741 expedition to Alaska, was described as having a dog-like head with pointed erect ears, but a fat seal-like body covered in reddish fur and a fish-like tail. No known marine mammal matches this description, yet Steller was a trained naturalist who accurately documented numerous other species during the same expedition, including the now extinct Steller's sea cow. His credibility in other observations has led some zoologists to speculate that he may have encountered an unknown species that subsequently became extinct or remains undiscovered. While mainstream science remains skeptical about the existence of large unknown marine species, the ongoing discovery of new ocean creatures, including some of substantial size, keeps the possibility open. This 17-foot whale was known only from bone fragments until two specimens washed ashore in New Zealand, confirming that a substantial marine mammal could evade scientific classification despite human ocean exploration. With over 95% of the ocean still unexplored, and many deep-sea regions never surveyed, the potential for undiscovered marine species, perhaps including some that might account for cryptid sightings, remains a tantalizing possibility. Now let's explore the mysterious phenomenon of ocean holes, perfectly circular vertical shafts that plunge from shallow coastal waters into the ocean floor, extending downward for hundreds or even thousands of feet. Unlike blue holes, which typically form in limestone through karst processes, ocean holes often appear in substrate materials that shouldn't support such formations, creating genuine geological puzzles. Their perfect circularity and vertical walls defy conventional erosion patterns, suggesting unknown formation processes or potentially even artificial origin. One of the most famous ocean holes is the Great Blue Hole off the coast of Belize, a perfect circle of deep blue approximately 1,000 feet across and 400 feet deep. While this particular formation has been explained as a limestone sinkhole that formed during past ice ages when sea levels were lower, other ocean holes lack this straightforward geological explanation. The Belize Hole is technically a marine cavern that flooded as Ice Age glaciers melted and sea levels rose, creating the striking circular appearance visible today. Inside this massive underwater shaft, stalactites and other cave formations confirm its origin as a terrestrial cavern that was subsequently submerged. Far more puzzling are formations like the Dragon Hole in the South China Sea, discovered in 2016 and measured at an astonishing 987 feet deep. Unlike the Belize Formation, the Dragon Hole appears in a region without the extensive limestone karst processes that would explain such a feature. Its walls descend vertically with minimal tapering, maintaining an almost perfect cylindrical shape throughout its depth. This geometric precision has led some geologists to suggest it might have formed through processes not yet fully understood, potentially involving underwater volcanic activity or gas eruptions from the seafloor. Even more mysterious are the multiple perfectly circular holes discovered on the continental shelf off the California coast in 2022. These formations, ranging from 30 to 130 feet in diameter, appear to have been punched into the seafloor sediment with minimal disruption to surrounding materials. Their edges are sharply defined rather than gradually sloped, and their depths extend beyond what research submersibles have been able to measure. Most puzzling is their arrangement. They appear in linear patterns with consistent spacing, suggesting some organizing principle beyond random natural processes. Some researchers have proposed these mysterious holes might result from gas eruptions, with methane or carbon dioxide bursting through the seafloor in concentrated jets, powerful enough to excavate cylindrical shafts. Others suggest they could represent ancient submarine springs, places where fresh water once flowed upward through the ocean floor, when sea levels were lower during ice ages. Still others point to biological activity, suggesting they might be created by colonies of burrowing organisms working collectively over long time periods. None of these explanations fully accounts for the geometric precision observed in many ocean holes, particularly their perfect circularity and consistent dimensions. While mainstream geology remains skeptical of such interpretations, the perfect ocean holes continue to defy completely satisfactory natural explanation, representing one of the many geometric anomalies hidden beneath the waves. Let's now explore the ancient mystery of underwater megalithic sites, massive stone structures submerged beneath the ocean that challenge conventional understanding of human history. Unlike shipwrecks or sunken cities from known historical periods, these megalithic sites feature construction techniques and architectural elements that seem to predate known civilizations capable of such engineering feats. Their current underwater locations indicate they were constructed when sea levels were much lower, potentially 10,000 or more years ago during the last ice age, a period when conventional archaeology holds that humans lived as primitive hunter-gatherers rather than sophisticated builders. The underwater ruins near Yonaguni Island, Japan, represent one of the most controversial of these sites. Discovered in 1987 by a dive tour operator, these massive stone structures include what appear to be terraces, ramps, and even a step pyramid rising from the ocean floor. While some geologists argue they represent natural formations created by peculiar erosion patterns, others point to features like precise right angles, straight walls extending for hundreds of feet, and apparent drainage channels that suggest deliberate construction. The structures lie at depths indicating they would have been submerged approximately 10,000 years ago as sea levels rose following the last ice age, millennia before mainstream archaeology recognizes the development of such sophisticated architecture. Similarly puzzling are the megalithic structures discovered off the coast of Malta in the Mediterranean. These include apparent temple foundations with massive stone blocks arranged in circular patterns similar to known Neolithic structures on the Maltese Islands, but situated at depths suggesting they were submerged at least 9,000 years ago. This timeline conflicts dramatically with conventional understanding of Mediterranean prehistory, which dates the earliest known megalithic construction in the region to approximately 5,500 years ago. Either these underwater structures represent an unknown civilization predating known megalithic cultures by thousands of years, or natural processes have created formations with remarkable similarity to human architecture. In 2001, researchers exploring the waters off Cuba's western coast discovered what appeared to be an extensive urban complex, approximately 2,000 feet below the surface. Sonar surveys revealed geometric structures covering more than 2 square kilometers, including apparent pyramids, circular buildings, and massive granite blocks in symmetrical arrangements. The depths suggest these structures, if artificial, would have been submerged approximately 6,000 years ago, predating all known advanced civilizations in the Americas. Limited exploration using remotely operated vehicles has confirmed the geometric nature of these formations, but their extreme depth has prevented more comprehensive investigation. What makes these underwater megalithic sites particularly challenging to conventional archaeology is their apparent sophistication. Many feature massive stone blocks weighing tens or even hundreds of tons, precisely fitted together without mortar. Some incorporate astronomical alignments that would have required sophisticated observational knowledge and mathematical understanding. Others show evidence of advanced stone-cutting techniques, including precise right angles and smooth surfaces, that would be challenging to achieve even with modern tools, let alone the primitive implements supposedly available to humans during the early post-Ice Age period. These submerged megalithic sites have led some researchers to propose the existence of advanced ancient civilizations that flourished during the last ice age, when sea levels were 300–400 feet lower than present day. According to this hypothesis, these civilizations might have developed primarily in coastal regions that were subsequently submerged as glaciers melted and oceans rose, explaining why their architectural achievements remained unknown until underwater exploration became technologically feasible. Now let's explore one of the ocean's most perplexing phenomena, underwater lights that don't appear to have any natural explanation. Unlike bioluminescence produced by marine organisms or phosphorescence from chemical reactions, these lights exhibit behaviors suggesting intelligent control. They change direction abruptly, respond to human presence, and sometimes appear to observe human activity with apparent curiosity. In 1991, American submarine USS Pittsburgh was conducting deep water exercises in the North Atlantic when sonar operators detected an unidentified object moving at approximately 150 knots at a depth of over 1,000 feet, a speed and depth combination impossible for any known underwater vehicle. Shortly thereafter, crew members reported seeing a brilliant blue-green light through the vessel's viewports, moving alongside the submarine for several minutes before accelerating away at extreme speed. The incident remained classified until 2016, when it was included in a declassified report on unexplained underwater phenomena encountered by NATO vessels. Similar accounts have come from deep-sea oil rig workers, particularly those operating in the North Sea and Gulf of Mexico. In 2017, workers on a Norwegian oil platform reported observing a grid of lights moving beneath the surface approximately 70 feet below their position. The lights maintained a perfect rectangular formation while maneuvering around the platform's subsurface structures, demonstrating awareness of these obstacles. Multiple witnesses described the lights as yellowish-white and two arranged to be biological, noting they moved in unison with apparent coordination. Particularly puzzling are reports of lights that seem to react intelligently to human presence. Professional divers working at depths of 100–300 feet have documented encounters with individual lights that approach when observed but retreat when pursued, maintaining a consistent distance as if observing the human observers. In several documented cases, these lights have performed maneuvers that seem almost playful, circling divers, leading them short distances before doubling back, or mirroring human movements in ways suggesting more than random motion. Scientific explanations for these phenomena remain inadequate. While some instances might represent bioluminescent organisms or geological phenomena, like underwater electrical discharges, these explanations fail to account for the apparent intelligence and coordinated movements reported in many encounters. Some marine biologists have proposed the lights might represent a previously unknown form of swarm behavior in certain bioluminescent organisms, potentially squids or jellyfish, that have evolved complex group behaviors that can appear intentional to human observers. More controversial explanations involve the possibility of unknown technology operating in deep ocean environments. Some researchers have suggested these might represent unmanned underwater vehicles, UUVs deployed by various nations for surveillance purposes, explaining their apparent intelligence and reluctance to be closely approached. However, the reported capabilities, including extreme speeds, rapid directional changes, and operation at depths that would crush conventional submarines, exceed known technological capabilities. For now, these mysterious underwater lights remain one of the ocean's most persistent enigmas, observed by credible witnesses including military personnel, professional divers, and oil rig workers, yet defying conventional scientific explanation. Whether they represent unknown biological phenomena, geological processes not yet understood, unacknowledged human technology, or something more exotic, they join the long list of mysteries concealed beneath the ocean's surface. Let's explore another maritime mystery that combines elements of both science and folklore, the legend of the green flash. For centuries, sailors have reported witnessing a brilliant flash of emerald green light, appearing just as the sun dips below the horizon at sunset, or occasionally at sunrise, as the sun first crests the horizon. According to maritime tradition, seeing the green flash brings good fortune or special insight. Some versions claim it allows the viewer to read others' thoughts momentarily, while others suggest it grants a brief glimpse into the spirit world. Unlike many maritime legends, the green flash has been scientifically confirmed as a real atmospheric optical phenomenon, though its rarity and brief duration, typically less than 2 seconds, have shrouded it in mystery and superstition. As the sun sets, the atmosphere acts like a prism, separating the sun's light into its component colors. Red and orange wavelengths are scattered away, while the blue and violet light is typically too faint to see, leaving the green wavelengths briefly visible as the last sliver of sun disappears. Perfect viewing conditions require a clear horizon, stable atmospheric conditions, and excellent visibility, a combination rarely found on land but more common at sea. What transforms this atmospheric phenomenon into an enduring maritime mystery is its connection to numerous accounts of unusual experiences that follow witnessing the green flash. Throughout maritime history, sailors have reported experiencing vivid dreams, moments of inexplicable clarity or foresight, or even brief visions after observing the emerald light. These accounts span cultures and centuries, suggesting something beyond mere superstition might be involved. In 1882, Jules Verne incorporated the green flash into his novel L'Arion Vert, the Green Ray, attributing mystical properties to the phenomenon, and claiming that those who witnessed it would gain extraordinary insight into their own hearts and the hearts of others. This literary treatment amplified existing folklore and contributed to the green flash's mystique. Interestingly, Verne's description of the phenomenon was remarkably accurate despite being written before photography had confirmed its exact appearance, suggesting he had either witnessed it personally or received detailed accounts from those who had. Modern scientific investigation has identified several distinct types of green flash, including the inferior mirage flash seen over warm water, the mock mirage flash observed over temperature inversions, and the rarer green ray that appears as a beam shooting up from the sun's position. Each variation occurs under specific atmospheric conditions and may last for different durations. The phenomenon can occasionally appear blue rather than green when atmospheric conditions are particularly favorable, creating what sailors call the blue flash, considered even rarer and more auspicious than its green counterpart. While science has explained the optical mechanics of the green flash, it hasn't fully addressed the question of why this brief phenomenon has generated such consistent reports of unusual psychological effects across different eras and cultures. Some neurologists have suggested the intense visual stimulus of the pure spectral green light might trigger specific brain responses, potentially activating neural pathways associated with insight or pattern recognition. Others propose more prosaic explanations, that the focused attention and patient observation required to successfully view the green flash creates a mindful state conducive to insight and memory formation. Whatever the full explanation, the green flash remains one of the few maritime mysteries to bridge the worlds of scientific fact and maritime folklore, a genuine optical phenomenon wrapped in centuries of mystical interpretation and subjective experience. For those patient enough to observe it properly, the momentary emerald brilliance continues to inspire the same sense of wonder that sailors have experienced since ancient times, a brief window when the boundary between the ordinary world and something more mysterious seems momentarily thinner. Let's now delve into the mysterious phenomenon of marine fossils found in locations that challenge conventional geological understanding. While oceanic fossils regularly appear on land due to well-understood tectonic processes that elevate former seabeds, certain fossil discoveries defy these conventional explanations. These anomalous findings include marine fossils in unexpected geological strata, species appearing in regions they shouldn't inhabit according to established evolutionary timelines, and preservation conditions that seem incompatible with gradual geological processes. One of the most puzzling examples comes from the Transantarctic Mountains, where in 1991 scientists discovered fossilized remains of Glossopteris forests alongside marine fossils including bivalves and arthropods. Even more puzzling was the remarkable preservation of some specimens, with cellular structures intact at a level typically lost during slow fossilization. The condition of these fossils suggested rapid burial and preservation, as might occur during a massive tsunami or other sudden inundation event. Similarly perplexing are marine fossils discovered at elevations of over 20,000 feet in the Himalayas. While plate tectonics explains how ancient seabeds can be uplifted through continental collision, the condition of these high-altitude marine fossils has raised questions. Many show minimal compression and distortion, despite the enormous pressures involved in mountain-building processes. Some specimens retain original material that should have been transformed during the intense heat and pressure of tectonic uplift, suggesting a more complex history than conventional geological models indicate. In 2016, marine paleontologists working in Nevada discovered fossils of ichthyosaurs, giant marine reptiles, arranged in patterns suggesting mass death rather than gradual accumulation over time. The specimens appear to have died simultaneously and been preserved in their original positions, with minimal scavenging or decomposition before fossilization. Even more puzzling was evidence suggesting these massive marine creatures had been deposited far inland from their normal deep-water habitat, potentially by an enormous tsunami or other catastrophic water movement. The preservation condition and arrangement have led some researchers to propose that conventional gradualist models of geological processes may be insufficient to explain certain fossil deposits. Perhaps most challenging to conventional understanding are fossils showing evidence of rapid, even instantaneous death and preservation. These include fish fossilized in the act of eating other fish, marine creatures preserved in swimming positions rather than the relaxed postures of natural death, and specimens showing no evidence of decomposition or scavenger activity before fossilization. Such preservation requires burial and mineral replacement to occur within hours, rather than the years or decades assumed in conventional fossilization models. These specimens suggest catastrophic events capable of instantly killing and preserving marine life may have played a larger role in Earth's biological record than traditionally acknowledged. These anomalous marine fossils have led some researchers to propose revised models of Earth's geological history that incorporate more frequent catastrophic events. These might include massive tsunamis capable of carrying deep-sea creatures far inland, sudden changes in ocean chemistry that could cause rapid mineralization, or even more exotic possibilities like rapid shifts in Earth's crust, displacing entire ocean basins. While these interpretations remain controversial, the physical evidence of anomalously preserved marine fossils continues to challenge our understanding of Earth's past. These silent witnesses from ancient oceans, found in unexpected locations and conditions, suggest our planet's history may include more dramatic chapters than conventional geological models have typically acknowledged. Let's now explore one of the most enduring ocean mysteries, the phenomenon of rogue waves that seem to defy the laws of physics until recent scientific confirmation. For centuries, mariners reported encountering massive walls of water that appeared without warning in otherwise moderate seas, waves that dwarfed surrounding wave patterns and struck with devastating force. These freak or rogue waves were typically described as being 2 to 3 times higher than the largest surrounding waves, often appearing with near-vertical faces described as walls of water or holes in the sea. Until the late 20th century, these accounts were largely dismissed by the scientific community as exaggerations or maritime folklore, as they contradicted established wave models. What transformed rogue waves from sailors' tales to accepted science was an instrumental recording made on January 1, 1995, at the Draupner oil platform in the North Sea. Laser measurements documented a single 84-foot wave appearing suddenly in a sea where the significant wave height was only around 40 feet, a wave that statistically should occur only once every 10,000 years, according to prevailing wave models. This Draupner wave provided the first scientific confirmation that rogue waves indeed exist and occur more frequently than mathematical models had predicted. Subsequent research using satellite data has revealed that rogue waves occur with surprising frequency in all the world's oceans. What makes rogue waves particularly terrifying is their unpredictability. Unlike tsunamis, which are generated by seismic events and travel in predictable patterns, rogue waves can form suddenly through complex interactions between multiple wave trains, currents, and wind patterns. They can appear in otherwise moderate sea conditions, sometimes described as coming out of nowhere by survivors. Modern weather forecasting and wave modeling systems still cannot reliably predict when and where rogue waves will form, making them a persistent threat even to modern vessels. The physics of rogue wave formation continues to challenge scientific understanding. Ocean currents, particularly when flowing against wave direction, can compress wavelengths and amplify wave heights through a process called wave compression. Wind patterns can further concentrate wave energy in specific locations, creating the conditions for rogue wave formation. The historical impact of rogue waves on maritime travel has likely been enormous, though difficult to quantify precisely. Analysis of shipping records suggests that many vessels listed as missing at sea or lost in calm weather may have encountered rogue waves that left no survivors to report what happened. Modern engineering standards for ships and offshore structures have been revised upward following confirmation of the rogue wave phenomenon, acknowledging that previous designs based on statistical wave models underestimated the maximum forces vessels might encounter. Perhaps most disturbing is evidence suggesting that climate change may be increasing both the frequency and intensity of rogue waves in certain ocean regions. Changes in prevailing wind patterns, ocean currents, and storm frequency create conditions more favorable to the formation of these killer waves. This potential increase in an already unpredictable hazard represents yet another way in which changing ocean conditions may impact human activities in coming decades. Let's now explore the mysterious phenomenon of oceanic plasma events, rare and poorly understood electrical discharges that occur at or just above the ocean surface. Unlike lightning, which forms in the atmosphere and occasionally strikes water, these plasma phenomena appear to originate at the ocean-air interface itself, creating sustained electrical effects that can last minutes rather than the split-second duration of typical lightning. Observed as glowing semi-transparent structures ranging from globular shapes to vertical columns, these electrical anomalies have been reported by mariners for centuries but remained largely unstudied by mainstream science until relatively recently. The most commonly reported oceanic plasma phenomenon is Stay Elmo's fire, a corona discharge that appears as blue or violet glowing points on ship masts, antennas, and other projecting structures during electrical storms. This well-documented effect occurs when the electrical field in the atmosphere is strong enough to cause ionization around pointed objects, creating a visible plasma discharge. While St. Elmo's fire itself is scientifically explained, it often accompanies more mysterious electrical phenomena that remain poorly understood. Sailors throughout history have regarded St. Elmo's fire with a mixture of fear and reverence, considering it both an omen of impending danger and a sign of divine protection. Far more puzzling are reports of what mariners have termed sea lights, glowing columns or domes of light that appear to rise directly from the ocean surface during certain weather conditions. Unlike St. Elmo's fire, which attaches to physical objects, these plasma structures form independently in open air or water, sometimes extending hundreds of feet vertically from the ocean surface. They typically appear during thunderstorms or conditions of atmospheric instability, but their formation mechanism remains speculative. Some researchers suggest they might represent a marine equivalent of ball lightning, while others propose they could result from electrical discharges between the ionosphere and concentrated salt ions in sea spray. In 2019, scientific instruments aboard a research vessel in the South Pacific recorded extremely unusual electrical activity, coinciding with crew observations of a pillar of blue-white light extending approximately 100 feet above the ocean surface. Measurements indicated electrical field strengths far exceeding those typically associated with thunderstorms, yet no lightning strikes were detected in the vicinity. Spectrographic analysis of the light showed emission patterns consistent with ionized sodium and chlorine, primary components of seawater, suggesting the phenomenon involved electrical excitation of sea spray or surface water rather than typical atmospheric lightning processes. Perhaps most intriguing are historical accounts describing interactive behavior of these oceanic plasma events. Naval records from the 18th and 19th centuries contain numerous reports of glowing structures that appeared to respond to human activity, changing direction when approached, splitting into multiple smaller lights when fired upon, or even seemingly following vessels for extended periods. While such accounts were long dismissed as superstition or misidentification, similar reports from modern commercial and military vessels have revived scientific interest in potentially intelligent seeming characteristics of certain electrical phenomena. One hypothesis suggests these plasma events might represent a form of natural electrolysis occurring at the ocean-atmosphere boundary under specific conditions. The interface between salt water and air can act as a kind of massive battery under certain electrical and atmospheric conditions, potentially generating complex plasma structures through processes not yet fully understood. The vast energy present in ocean wave action, combined with electrical potentials in the atmosphere, could theoretically power electrochemical reactions capable of producing the observed phenomena. While mainstream science remains skeptical about the more exotic aspects of oceanic plasma events, the increasing availability of sophisticated measurement equipment on oceanographic vessels has begun to provide objective data about these previously anecdotal phenomena. Their study represents an emerging frontier where oceanography, atmospheric science, and plasma physics intersect, potentially offering new insights into complex electromagnetic interactions in Earth's largest and most dynamic environment. Now let's explore one of the ocean's most enigmatic lost technologies, the legend of Greek fire, a mysterious incendiary weapon that allegedly could burn on water and was used by the Byzantine Empire to dominate naval warfare for centuries. Despite its historical significance and effectiveness, the exact composition of Greek fire was lost to history when the Byzantine Empire fell, creating one of history's most enduring technological mysteries. Historical accounts describe Greek fire as a liquid that was heated and pressurized, then projected through bronze tubes mounted on Byzantine ships, creating a flaming jet similar to a modern flamethrower. When the liquid contacted enemy ships or the ocean surface, it reportedly ignited instantly and spread rapidly, continuing to burn even on water. Contemporary accounts describe the substance as having a distinct odor similar to sulfur and creating thick, choking smoke that added to its effectiveness by disorienting enemy sailors. The psychological impact was apparently as devastating as its physical effects, with enemy fleets sometimes retreating at the mere sight of the bronze projection tubes being prepared. The secret formula for Greek fire was so closely guarded that it was known only to the Byzantine emperor and the Kallinikos family who originally developed it. The formula was reportedly passed down from emperor to emperor in sealed documents as a state secret of the highest order. This extreme secrecy ultimately led to the loss of the formula when the chain of knowledge was broken, likely during periods of political upheaval or the eventual fall of Constantinople in 1453. Despite numerous historical references to its use and effectiveness, no definitive recipe has ever been discovered in surviving Byzantine records. Modern scientists and historians have proposed various potential formulations based on materials available in the Byzantine period and properties described in historical accounts. These typically include some combination of petroleum, quicklime, saltpeter, sulfur, and resin, potentially mixed with other ingredients like pine pitch or naphtha. However, attempts to recreate Greek fire using these ingredients have failed to replicate all the properties described in historical accounts, particularly its ability to burn intensely on water and resist extinguishing by conventional means. Some researchers suggest the original formula might have included compounds or preparation techniques not recorded in surviving documents or lost to modern knowledge. The historical impact of Greek fire was profound, allowing the Byzantine Empire to maintain naval superiority against numerous opponents for centuries, despite often being outnumbered. It played a crucial role in defending Constantinople against Arab sieges in the 7th and 8th centuries, effectively destroying enemy fleets and preventing naval blockades of the city. Without this technological advantage, some historians suggest the Byzantine Empire might have fallen centuries earlier than it did, potentially altering the entire course of European and Middle Eastern history. Its story raises provocative questions about other potential lost technologies from ancient civilizations, particularly those related to maritime warfare and exploration. If such an important and well-documented technology could be lost despite its significance, what other maritime secrets might have disappeared with civilizations that left fewer written records than the Byzantine Empire? Let's now delve into the enduring mystery of the Baltic Sea anomaly, a strange circular formation discovered on the ocean floor in 2011 that continues to defy definitive explanation. Found by the Swedish Ocean X diving team using side-scan sonar, the object appears as an almost perfectly circular formation approximately 200 feet in diameter, with features that have been variously described as resembling a spacecraft, a massive mushroom, or an ancient structure. Initial sonar images revealed what appeared to be a circular object with sharply defined edges sitting on a raised plateau on the seafloor. More detailed subsequent scans identified what seemed to be straight lines, right angles, and corridors or passageways within the main structure. These geometric features are uncharacteristic of natural underwater formations, which typically display more irregular and organic shapes. Team leader Peter Lindbergh described the surface as resembling rough concrete rather than natural stone, with perfectly straight lines and 90-degree angles that would be highly unusual in a natural formation. The team also reported that electronic equipment malfunctioned when brought within 200 meters of the object, returning to normal function when moved away, a phenomenon they couldn't explain but which suggested some form of electromagnetic interference. Samples allegedly taken from the surface reportedly contained unusual metal compositions, though these findings have not been verified by independent scientific analysis. Mainstream geologists who have examined the sonar data suggest the formation is likely a natural geological feature, possibly a glacial deposit, underwater volcano, or gas pocket eruption from the seafloor. They point out that certain natural processes can create surprisingly geometric features, particularly in regions like the Baltic Sea with complex glacial histories. Adding to the mystery is the Baltic Sea anomaly's location, in an area with a long history of unusual maritime activity and reported navigational disturbances. The region has a higher than average rate of compass anomalies and instrument malfunctions, which some researchers attribute to natural magnetic variations, but others connect to whatever may lie beneath the waves. Historical shipping records from as far back as the 18th century mention navigational difficulties in this specific area, suggesting whatever causes these effects has been present for centuries. Without comprehensive scientific examination, which would require significant resources due to the object's depth and location, the Baltic Sea anomaly remains one of the ocean's most tantalizing modern mysteries. Could it represent an ancient human structure from a period when sea levels were lower? Or might it be something more exotic, as some more speculative researchers have suggested? Until more definitive investigation occurs, this strange circular formation on the Baltic seafloor continues to inspire debate and fascination, joining the long list of unexplained objects hidden in Earth's oceans. Now let's explore the mysterious phenomenon of underwater earthquakes that produce no surface tsunamis, seismic events that somehow absorb or redirect energy that would typically create devastating ocean waves. Conventional understanding holds that underwater earthquakes above a certain magnitude, typically 7.0 or greater, should generate tsunamis when they displace significant volumes of water. However, seismologists have documented numerous powerful submarine earthquakes that produced either no tsunami or waves far smaller than models predicted, creating a genuine scientific puzzle. In 2015, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake occurred in the Scotia Sea near Antarctica at a relatively shallow depth that should have generated significant tsunami waves. This pattern of missing tsunamis has been documented in several other significant underwater seismic events, particularly in regions with complex seafloor topography. These extended duration earthquakes might disperse energy in ways that prevent the formation of coherent tsunami waves, essentially spreading out what would otherwise be a concentrated displacement of water. However, this explanation doesn't fully account for all observed cases, particularly those where seismic signatures indicate rapid rather than extended energy release. Another proposed explanation involves underwater landslides or slumps occurring simultaneously with earthquakes, but in opposite directions. This cancellation effect could potentially prevent tsunami formation even from powerful earthquakes. Perhaps most intriguing is the possibility that certain seafloor features might act as natural tsunami barriers or energy sinks. Research suggests that underwater mountain ranges, trenches, or specific seafloor compositions might absorb or redirect seismic energy in ways not fully incorporated into current tsunami models. Some geophysicists have proposed that certain regions of the oceanic crust might have previously unrecognized elastic or dampening properties that effectively absorb energy that would otherwise generate surface waves. The study of these anomalous non-tsunami earthquakes has significant implications for coastal safety worldwide. Current tsunami warning systems operate on models assuming consistent relationships between earthquake magnitude, depth, and resulting wave generation. If complex interactions between seismic events and seafloor features can sometimes prevent expected tsunamis, they might also potentially amplify them in unexpected scenarios. Understanding these mechanisms could lead to more accurate prediction systems, and potentially even artificial structures designed to mitigate tsunami impacts through similar energy dispersion principles. This phenomenon represents one of several ways in which the ocean continues to defy our predictive models, despite decades of scientific study. The complex interactions between seismic energy, water displacement, and seafloor topography create scenarios where outcomes differ dramatically from theoretical predictions, highlighting how much remains unknown about processes occurring in the dynamic boundary between solid Earth and liquid ocean. Let's now explore the strange case of the SS Ourang Medan, one of the most disturbing maritime mysteries of the 20th century. According to accounts, in June 1947, multiple ships in the Strait of Malacca received a distress call from the Dutch freighter Ourang Medan. The message, sent in Morse code, reportedly contained the chilling words, "All officers, including captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead." This was followed by a series of indecipherable dots and dashes, and finally the words, "I die." No further communication was received from the vessel. A nearby American merchant ship, the Silver Star, responded to the distress call and located the Ourang Medan floating adrift. When a rescue party boarded the silent vessel, they reportedly discovered a nightmarish scene. The entire crew lay dead, their bodies sprawled across the decks and in the ship's compartments. Most disturbing were the conditions of the corpses. All reportedly had expressions of extreme terror frozen on their faces, with eyes wide open and mouths agape as if screaming. No visible wounds or signs of injury were apparent, and no surviving crew members were found. According to the accounts, the boarding party from the Silver Star intended to tow the Ourang Medan to port, but soon after attaching a line, smoke began emanating from the lower decks of the stricken vessel. The boarding party quickly abandoned ship, and shortly after returning to the Silver Star, they witnessed the Ourang Medan explode with sufficient force to lift it out of the water before it rapidly sank. This explosion eliminated any possibility of a thorough investigation of the circumstances surrounding the crew's mysterious deaths. No registry of a vessel by that name has been located in Lloyd's shipping register or other maritime databases. No official inquiry or investigation reports have been found, despite the dramatic nature of the incident. Even the Silver Star's logs from that period contain no mention of the rescue attempt, leading some researchers to question whether the entire incident might be apocryphal. Those who believe the incident occurred have proposed various explanations for the crew's deaths. One theory suggests the ship might have been carrying illegal chemical or biological agents that leaked into the ventilation system, causing rapid death while producing the facial expressions of terror. Nerve agents like serene or certain chemical weapons could potentially cause such symptoms. The subsequent explosion could have resulted from these same chemicals or from a deliberate scuttling to hide evidence of the illicit cargo. Another theory involves natural phenomena, specifically underwater seismic activity releasing pockets of methane or carbon dioxide that rose to the surface near the ship. These gases could potentially have displaced oxygen around the vessel, causing rapid asphyxiation of the crew. Certain toxic volcanic gases can also produce symptoms consistent with the described condition of the bodies, including the expressions of terror. The subsequent fire and explosion might have resulted from normal shipboard combustibles igniting in an oxygen-rich environment after the gas cloud dispersed. More exotic explanations have also been proposed, ranging from paranormal phenomena to extraterrestrial involvement. The latter theory gained traction, partly due to the incident's timing during the early days of the UFO phenomenon and Cold War paranoia. Whether the Ourang Medan incident represents an actual maritime disaster shrouded in official secrecy, a conflation of multiple real events transformed through retelling, or simply an elaborate seafaring legend, it has secured its place among the ocean's most disturbing mysteries. The image of an entire crew struck dead with expressions of terror frozen on their faces continues to haunt maritime lore, representing the special dread that accompanies death at sea far from home and help. The persistence on maps, despite improvements in navigation and surveying technology, creates a genuine historical enigma that challenges our understanding of maritime exploration. One of the most famous ghost islands is Sandy Island, which appeared on maps of the Coral Sea near Australia from the 18th century until as recently as 2012. The island was first reported by the crew of the whaling ship Velocity in 1876 and subsequently included on British Admiralty charts and numerous other maps, including Google Maps until November 2012. What makes this case particularly puzzling is that the island persisted on charts, despite numerous vessels that should have passed directly through its reported location over decades of Pacific navigation. Even more persistent was the legendary island of Bermuda, which appeared on maps of the Gulf of Mexico from the 16th century until the early 2000s. This substantial island, reportedly several miles across, was detailed in Spanish colonial documents and used in international boundary negotiations between Mexico and the United States as recently as the 1970s. Multiple expeditions in the 20th and early 21st centuries failed to locate any trace of the island, including a comprehensive 2009 survey commissioned by the Mexican government that found nothing but deep ocean at the charted location. The island's disappearance has spawned theories ranging from conventional cartographic error to more exotic explanations involving deliberate destruction for territorial advantage. Perhaps the most elaborate ghost island case involves the Isle of Demons, reportedly located off Newfoundland's coast and described in multiple 16th century accounts as inhabited by devils and wild beasts that would howl through the night. The island featured prominently in the story of Marguerite de la Roque, a French noblewoman allegedly abandoned there in 1542 as punishment for an illicit affair during an Atlantic crossing. According to the account, she survived for 2 years before being rescued by fishermen, despite the island's fearsome reputation and harsh conditions. Despite its prominence in historical accounts and its appearance on numerous maps between 1508 and the late 17th century, no island corresponding to the Isle of Demons has ever been conclusively identified. What makes ghost islands particularly intriguing is their persistence despite advances in navigation technology. This suggests these islands may have represented something real, perhaps shoals that appeared above water only under certain conditions, floating islands of pumice or vegetation that later dispersed, or even deliberate frauds perpetuated for political or economic advantage. Some researchers have proposed that certain ghost islands might represent temporary landmasses formed by volcanic activity that subsequently subsided back beneath the waves. The Pacific Ring of Fire has numerous examples of islands that have appeared and disappeared due to volcanic processes, including Falcon Island in Tonga, which has emerged and submerged multiple times since its first recorded appearance in 1865. The phenomenon of ghost islands highlights how our understanding of ocean geography remains surprisingly fluid well into the modern era. These phantom landmasses, recorded, mapped, described, sometimes even claimed and contested, that ultimately proved not to exist, remind us that the boundary between geographical fact and maritime folklore has sometimes been thinner than we might assume. They represent a unique category of mystery, not things hidden in the ocean, but things believed to exist that the ocean ultimately revealed were never there at all.